Okay, thank you, panel members, for coming back on time. I appreciate that. And we're going to get this afternoon session started. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by city staff, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Please use only one device at a time, as use of additional devices can cause static noise which may interfere with the audio of this hearing. To ensure further audio clarity, we suggest that you do not use the speakerphone function of your telephones. Those participating by video conference will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen option or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. City staff will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number that you were originally registered with. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. At this time, it's important that we make a very important land acknowledgement. We are participating in this public hearing today online from the North York Civic Center. We would like to begin this meeting with an acknowledgement that Indigenous communities have been part of this land and this area's history since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge this land on which we reside and work with gratitude and respect. It is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are encouraged to reflect upon our commitments both collectively and individually in taking steps towards meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Now, in accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment with the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Nadini Sankar Peralta, and I will be chairing today's meeting. And joining us on the panel is our astute members Nazila Atarodi West, Paul Kidd, Natasha Manning, and absent would be Giuseppe Bartolo. He may come in at a later time. But city staff are also present, and that's our infamous Deputy Secretary Treasurer Simon Land, and the very hardworking panel staff Alex Liu, Sam Mozayani, Daphne Davis, and Irving Bridgeraj. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending the notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, or in some limited circumstances, the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant or agent, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons, and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedures are as follows. I'm going to call each item in order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require presentation, applicants are to advise the chair if they still wish to speak to the item. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will ask you to summarize your remarks when you are reaching the 5-minute mark without exception. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application only. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make their presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that the revised application is accurate and that those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then individuals in either support or opposition of the application will be invited to speak. If more than one individual wishes to speak to this application, we ask that you please try not to repeat the points already made by others. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers within a 5-minute time frame. This will mark the end of discussion on the item, and then the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Now, in this afternoon session, I'd just like to ask members if you have any conflict of interest to declare at this time. I note that there is no conflict of interest to declare, including for myself, and I'll just touch base with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. I do understand that there's a couple of items to defer.
That's right, Madam Chair. It's in the front of their participants list. And our first one is 15 BARBERRY, I believe. Nope, sorry. In order, be 30 TRETTI.
30 TRETTI Way?
Yep.
Which I guess is item number 17 from my records, or let's take a quick look here.
That's correct, Madam Chair. It's number 17.
Okay. So item number 17, 30 TRETTI Way. This is a proposal to reduce retail gross floor area requirements, convert retail space into 16 dwelling units, and reduce parking requirements. We've got an agent on here and no one else to speak to the application. Mr. Todd Trudell, who was already made an appearance in the morning session. Mr. Trudell, are you there?
Good afternoon, committee, and my apologies for coming back on for another deferral.
That's okay. We'd just like your name and address for our records because this is a new session for the afternoon.
Okay, it's Todd Trudell with Goldberg Group, 2098 Avenue Road, Toronto.
Okay, great. And so there's no one else to speak to this application. Can you share with us why you'd like this deferral today?
Yeah, after we received the notice, it was pointed out to us that variance number 3, with respect to the residential parking, the numbers were reversed. So it should say that the number of required parking spaces is 183 and proposed is 174.
Okay, so it's to correct those changes?
So we would just like to get those corrected and if possible, get on to the March 9th hearing if available.
Okay, I think that once that's done, you will be able to get on to the nearest other hearing that they actually have space to hold your application. So with
Okay.
that, and there's no one else to speak to this application, committee members, unless you have any questions, can I get a motion on the deferral of this application today? Member Manning with a deferral request.
Through you, Madam Chair, a motion to grant the deferral request.
Motion to approve this deferral by Member Manning, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor?
Sorry.
Sine die, yes. All those in favor? Okay. Mr. Trudell, your application has been unanimously approved for deferral. Sine die.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, can you share with us what the second deferral request is?
Yep, just give me a second. It is for 15 Barbary, and that is item number 20.
Okay, so item number 20, which is 415 Barbary, and that is a proposal to construct an exterior elevation addition, roof terrace renovations, and interior alterations to the existing building. I have on this the agent and one other person who might actually be assisting the agent as well, so there may be no one to speak to this item, but I will double check. Arezu Talebzadeh.
Hi,
Hi there.
good afternoon.
Is this
My name is Aridut Halevzadeh, yes, from Montgomery System Architects, 197 Spadina Avenue in Toronto.
Okay, thank you. I do have an Allison Keller on the line that's waiting to speak to this. Is that someone who was in support of the application or helping with the questions to you?
Yes, she is the client. She's just here to support if
Okay.
needed.
All right, perfect. So if you can share with the committee why you're asking for a deferral, that would be helpful to us.
Sure. We have received a letter from the City of Toronto on February 13th from the Traffic Committee, and they asked us to do a traffic study on this project because of the reduction in the parking, the number of parking. We feel comfortable if we can come back and show the committee why we think that the number that you're proposing is efficient for this specific site. It's the senior housing project.
Okay, fair enough. Committee members, if there aren't any other questions, can I get a motion on this deferral request? Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair, would like to put forward the motion to defer this application, sine die, so that the applicant can work on the to satisfy the transportation.
Okay, thank you. Can I get someone to second Member Attarodi's approval of this deferral? Member Manning seconding that motion. All in favor? That motion carries. Your application has been deferred, sine die, for those reasons.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So that will take us back to item number 15. We're starting with the regular day. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, there's no items to close.
Correct, Madam Chair. There's no items to close at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 15. This is number 31 WYNN Road, and 31 WYNN Road is a proposal to construct a new dwelling Committee members, we've got 8 variances, 1 letter of objection. There are urban forestry conditions that apply. And the person that I have on file as the agent is listed as Miss Ida Evangelista. Miss Evangelista, are you there?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. Can you hear me okay?
You sound perfectly loud and clear. Can I just get your name and
One-
address for our records, please?
Absolutely. Ida Evangelista, 53 Bentworth Avenue, Toronto.
Okay, great. Ms. Evangelista, we do have someone here to talk to this application. And so for that reason, can you provide us with a brief presentation of the merits?
Yes, Madam Chair. So I have submitted a package which outlines some photos of the rear of the property, and on page 3, I've outlined variances 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8. So variance number 1. So I should bring to your attention, there was a corrected zoning review, and perhaps staff can comment, but on the zoning notice, it states the proposed north side yard setback is 1.5. That should actually be the south side. And number 2 should read north. So I would just wanted to confirm that.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time just so that our
Sure.
staff can hear this?
So number 1 should be south, 2 and 3 should be north.
One moment, please. Okay. So the revised zoning notice is on the screen for members for you to look at. And so, yes, Ms. Evangelista, please continue.
Okay. So the side yards what we are proposing is consistent with what is in the neighborhood. These side yard setbacks do allow for light, air, and safety. Our coverage in this area and that extended area, the maximum coverage is typically 32%. We're asking for 31.58%. We are keeping below that required coverage. The length, I understand, and I did read the letter of opposition, and I know he's concerned about the length, but I would like to just point out, and if you refer to my my submission, and you'll see on page 4 how the length. So this is a flat roof house. And to create some articulation in the front, there's an overhang on the second floor. So that overhang is what's contributing to this length. However, on the north side of the house, we have a length of 16.74. And on the south side of the house, we have a length of 17.89. So it is, when you do see that length that it's requesting, it is strictly because it's taken. And if you take a look at page 4, you'll see there's that overhang on the second floor, and that's what's contributing to the length. So the other comment that I wanted to, the other variance is the front yard setback. So we are proposing to keep this house in place where it is. It's going to line up with the neighboring homes, and it will also align with the home. The rear of the property will align with the home on the south. However, the front yard setback is existing, and we are going to maintain that just so that there is that alignment. And you can see that on my aerial photo that I provided, how the homes on that block do align as such. The stairs, we are asking for an additional 0.19 at the front stairs just to allow a little bit more mobility to enter and symmetry. And again, it's part of the architectural features of the home. In closing, I would just like to say that what we're proposing, it is desirable and appropriate of the subject lands. It does form a form of intensification that meets the 4 tests. You'll see if you've reviewed the area, you'll see that this is an area, it's eclectic. We have bungalows, we have 2 stories, there's a few semis, and this is an area that is undergoing reinvestment and regeneration. And I am open to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Evangelista. Members, do you have any questions of the agent at this time? Okay, with that being said, let's move on to the first speaker who'd like to speak to this application, and we've got a Brian Gaston. Mr. Gaston, are you there?
Or just north of the property in question, and
Sorry,
I'll
if
just
you
take
could
a.
Mr. Gaston, I think you got cut off. If you can actually state your name and address again for our records.
Okay, it's Brian Gaston, 33 WYNN Road, which is immediately north of 31.
Thank you very
Madam
much.
Chair, can I say something really quickly to the speaker?
Yes.
Or through you, Madam Chair, can you clarify with the speaker if he understood the changes or the corrections that Ms. Evangelista has proposed? If he does not understand them,
Okay, so Mr. Gaston, there were some specific changes that the agent had proposed. I believe you've been listening to it.
I have.
Do you understand them?
I believe I do.
Okay, I just want to double check because if you don't, we could defer this application if needed, just to ensure that you're fully aware of what's being proposed.
No, I think I've got it. I'm good.
Okay, good. All right, please continue with your, sharing your concerns on the application.
Okay, thanks. I was just going to speak briefly about my written submission to the committee and give it some context. I guess the context of my submission is that the proposed structure is being built on a lot that's 150 by 50 feet. The size of this lot really places no significant restrictions on building a large house on it. Given that context, I submit that the variances are a little unreasonable and unnecessary. Specifically, I've agreed that minor variances, and the numbers will change now with the clarifications, but I had variances 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. Some of those will switch because the applicant switched the south and the north, but it really comes down to the same thing. I'm losing about a foot or 0.3 meters side yard clearance, which is about 17% in excess of the regulation. For things like wind and snow on my driveway, it may cause a bit of a problem. I also said that I was losing 7 feet of length and some of the visual and the sunlight that goes with that. I withdraw that with the clarification given by the applicant because that sounds like my side will be fine. So I would request that the committee review those variances and either reduce them or eliminate them at their discretion and what they think is right. Finally, the one that I guess I've objected to the most is variance number 6. This is the one that's 80% over the regulation of having a balcony above the second floor, and it's the one I think that will impact my privacy the most. And beyond that, I thank the committee for hearing my concerns and look forward to the decision. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Committee members, do you have any questions of Mr. Gaston? Okay, there being none, Ms. Evangelista, I'll invite you back to, address any of the concerns that were raised by Mr. Gaston today. Ms. Evangelista? I'm not, yeah, there we go. I can,
No, sorry, I was just unmuted. Sorry. Okay.
okay,
I was talking to myself. So there is a platform at the rear of the property on the second floor, and that platform is 7.68 meters away from Mr. Gaston's, from the lot line on the north side. It is a patio that's approximately 3 square meters over what we required 4 meters. We can put a privacy screening on that side if you would prefer. But it is, well, it's quite a ways away from the lot line. The side yard setbacks. So we have reviewed, and you can see from the building footprint that I provided on the last page, you'll see that what we're proposing is very consistent. Most of the homes, actually, majority of the homes in this area, they are all new homes that are being proposed. They're all 1.5 meters side yard setback. That is something that is the character of the neighborhood. We are a little further in on the south side, and we're at 1.5 to 1.53. So on the, sorry, my apologies. On the west side, we're at 1.53, and on the east side, we're at 1.5. So I do respectfully maintain that this does, I know it is, and I can understand that it is different than what is currently there. However, the footprints that we are now moving towards is to be characteristic to the neighborhood. And I respectfully submit that what we are proposing is respectful to the neighborhood and very characteristic. I hope that addresses Mr. Gaston's answers, or questions, I should say.
okay, thank you very much. Committee members, do you have any questions of Ms. Evangelista before we take this into committee for decision making? Okay, that being said, can I entertain a motion, please? And just to share again, it's 8 variances. The letter of objection you've heard from the neighbor. There are forestry conditions that are pending, and there is a proposal from Ms. Evangelista to put up a bit of a privacy screening if that is required. I'll give committee members a moment to consider, and a motion when you're ready. Member Kidd.
I do feel persuaded by the agent's explanation of the for the variances, and given the fact there's no negative comments from city planning staff, I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application. Now, do I need to amend the variances 1, 2, and 3, or is the city staff going to take care of those changes?
Through you, Madam Chair, we can take care of those changes. The neighbor right beside has verified he understands the corrections that needs to be made. Thank you.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, then I'll put forward a motion to accept the application subject to forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Member Kidd with a motion to accept this application with those conditions, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Unanimously approved with those conditions, Ms. Evangelista. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Up next, item number 16, which is number 2 Marchwood Drive. Members, this is a proposal to construct a new dwelling. There are 6 variances and 2 letters of support. And nothing else outstanding on the file. We've got Mr. Mahir Manios back with us in the afternoon. Mr. Manios, if you're there, can you state your name and address again for this new session?
Sure. Mahir Manius, 1 Teakwood Grove, Toronto, M3B 2H9.
Thank you. Members, there's no one to speak to this application. Do you require a presentation? There being no requirement at this time, Mr. Manios, do you want to share with the members anything else that you feel that would help with their decision-making as they consider this application?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll just take a couple of your minutes of your time.
Sure.
Variances number 2, 3, and 5 relate to the east setback, and they're only triggered because this is a corner lot and the house abutting it on the north side fronts on the same street, which triggers the 3-meter requirement. Actually, the porch and the overhangs comply just because they're measured from the required setback. That's what's triggering the variance. And the main wall itself, only the central part is set back 1.52. The remaining portion at the front, and as you go towards the back, it terraces away from the property line. So we have 2.29, 2.13, and 2.74 all the way at the back of the property in order to bring it closer to compliance. And the length variance is strictly technical in nature because of the 1-story portion at the back of the house is set back 2.74 instead of the required 3-meter. It gets added to the main length of the house, but the actual 2-story portion of the house is just shy of the 17-meter requirement, 16.99, and it's just that 1-story portion, which is because the setback, it triggers that variance. And I'll answer any questions if committee members have.
Okay, thank you for that. Committee members, any questions of the agent here today? If no questions, can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, a motion to approve this application. I'm satisfied with the applicant's submissions, that these are minor variances with no conditions.
Motion from Member Manning to approve this application without conditions, seconded by Member Kidd, seconds this. All those in favor? Opposed? Member Attarodi dissenting. Mr. Manios, your application has been approved without condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. As item number 17 has been deferred, we will move on to item number 18. Item number 18 is 33 Rumsey Road. This is an application to construct a new dwelling. There are quite a number of speakers listed here, but the agent is David Engelman. Mr. Engelman, are you there?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members.
Your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, Madam Chair. Through you, my name is David Eagleman. I am a senior planner with Design Plan Services, and I am here on behalf of the owner of the property, 900 the East Mall, Suite 300 is my address.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eagleman. I note that there's 5 variances. There was Councillor Robinson's February 9th letter requesting deferral. There is something from the Leaside Residents Association requesting denial of the application, and 2 letters of opposition. And there's about 3 other members who would like to speak to this application today. Why don't you give us a presentation within 5 minutes about the merits of this application?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So through you, Madam Chair, before getting into the variances, I would like to note that we have consulted with city planning staff regarding this application, and they have expressed no concerns or objections to the proposal. Additionally, Urban Forestry has provided a memorandum regarding this application and has also expressed no concerns or objections, and has also not requested any approval conditions for this. And I will note that I have reviewed the objection letters that have been submitted by some of the surrounding neighbors, and I do understand that a main concern from most, if not all of the neighbors, is the removal of a silver maple tree in the rear yard. However, the existing silver maple tree is located within an as of right building envelope, and a building permit could be pulled today for a dwelling that would result in the removal of that tree. And that is also the reason why urban forestry has expressed no conditions or concerns in recognition of that.
Okay.
Regarding variance number 1 and 2, which relate to the both north and south side yard setbacks, the proposed setbacks on both sides of the dwelling will be in keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood. There are many other examples on the street and within the neighborhood of similar or smaller side yard setbacks, and some of these include 30 Rumsey Road, which is approved at 0.9 meters on both sides, 32 Rumsey Road approved at 0.91 meters on both sides, 49 Rumsey Road approved at 0.64 meters on both sides, and 51 Rumsey Road approved at 0.61 meters on one side and 0.77 meters on the other side. So those are just a few examples of the many that are within this neighborhood and on the street. Additionally, the proposed north side yard setback will be 0.9 meters for only a pinch point along multiple pinch points along the north main wall, due to the fact that the north wall has a staggered design. You can see it on the site plan right now, where the 0.9 meters is actually just for the pinch point at the front of the dwelling, where it increases at various points along the north main wall. And in regards to the south side main wall, the south side doesn't have the same staggered design and will be at 0.9 meters for the entire length of the wall. However, that south side yard setback will actually be an improvement to the existing condition, considering that the existing dwelling has a south side yard setback of 0.22 meters at its narrowest point and 0.8 meters at its widest point. So the proposed side yard setbacks will be in keeping with the existing character and will have little to no impact further than what the bylaw already contemplates. Regarding the coverage variance number 3, the proposed lot coverage will result in only 12.558 square meters or 136 square feet of additional lot coverage over what is permitted as of right. This minor increase will be practically imperceptible as compared to a dwelling on the subject property with an as of right lot coverage, and will have little to no impact further than what the bylaw contemplates. Again, similar to the side yard setbacks, there have been many approvals for lot coverage in this neighborhood. Some of these examples include 30 Rumsey Road approved at 36.1%, 59 Rumsey Road approved at 37.55%, 78 Airdrie Road approved at 39%, and 87 Airdrie Road approved at 38%. And I will also note that the proposal is compliant with all front and rear landscaping requirements, as well as the maximum permitted FSI and maximum permitted length and depth. And that demonstrates that the overall massing will be in keeping with the neighborhood and is appropriate for the subject property. So lastly, just to touch on the last two variances quickly, those two are just a result of the fact that the north front canopy and the rear canopy align with the main walls, which require setback variances. So those variances are minor as well and are in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. So based on the provided justification, I'm of the opinion that this proposal fits in with both the existing and planned context for the neighborhood, is consistent with the redevelopment trends along Rumsey Road and the broader neighborhood context. And for these reasons, I believe the application represents good planning and meets the 4 tests under section 45(1). So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, and you've reached the 5-minute mark. Perfect. What I'd like to do is ask members, do you have any questions of Mr. Eagleman today? Okay, if none at this time, let's move on to the speakers. We actually do have 4 sets of speakers, not 3. So let's begin with Beatrice Lawford. Ms. Lawford, are you there?
My name is Beatrice Lawford, and I live at 23 Rumsey Road. Madam Chair and fellow committee members. I actually live on the block that the rebuild is occurring on, and I want to state that this house right now is an original Leaside house. I would like to see the block maintain its intact streetscape and not have a new build that is totally out of keeping with the rest of the block. We've had 2 new rebuilds, and they have been in keeping with the block. I do think the variances, particularly the north and south setbacks, are major and not minor, and that the lot coverage is excessive. But I am particularly concerned about the 60-foot silver maple tree. It's a magnificent tree. We cannot grow trees like that. The fact that the former owners did a very discreet addition on this original house, honored the tree. I find that taking down this tree to build an excessive new build that isn't in keeping with the streetscape is, I find, quite indefensible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Committee members, do you have any questions of Ms. Lawford? Okay, if none, then let's move on to Brian Affey. Mr. Brian.
I actually had a question.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Ms. Manning,
It's
go
okay.
ahead, please.
Yes, I was just wondering how you think it's not in keeping with the streetscape. Is there a specific issue?
The fact that it's going to be a square box with a flat roof when all the rest of the houses are in keeping with the original landscape of South Leaside homes.
Ms. Manning, does that respond to your questions? Do you have further questions? Okay, no further questions then. All right, let's move on to Brian Affey. Mr. Brian Affey, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please state your name and address for our records, please.
Perfect. So my name is Brian Affey. I live at 27 Rumsey Road. I'm 3 homes away from the subject applications. Good afternoon, committee and chair. I'll be brief in my comments. This is a original Leaside 1930s era home, not 1960s as noted in the actual application. As the previous speaker has noted, it is of original Leaside character, materials, architecture, a Georgian style with gables and peaked roof. The applicant is proposing complete new construction. As such, they have a clean slate to work with from a design point of view. They have plenty of flexibility as to the footprint and size and configuration of the home. They have chosen to design to the maximum permitted length. They are exceeding coverage, and I would suggest that the exceedance in coverage does make a difference to the neighborhood. I'd like to speak to the tree, the silver maple, and you will be hearing, I think, from many people about this tree. This tree is nothing short of majestic. It predates the original neighborhood construction. It's easily over 100 years old. It is 4 stories in height. Its canopy shades over 4 neighborhoods and homes in the area. It is in excellent visual health, structure, shape, and has full leaf bloom every year. The City of Toronto makes great efforts to protect its trees. The city official plan has a policy adopted by council that calls for an increase in the tree canopy of our city, not a decrease. There's a target to grow the tree canopy from 28% to 40%. And trees are important, not just on public and private lands, but a very important part of the community. I would say that this application does not meet the 4 tests. It does not comply with the official plan policy. It's not appropriate or in keeping for the neighborhood. And I respectfully suggest that ask the committee to defer this application to allow the applicants to revise their footprint and their plans to protect the tree. You can see it there, sort of at the bottom of the footprint. It looks like there's a built-in barbecue and a future pool in that area. Plans have been revised in the past to avoid conflicting with tree roots. And again, this is an exceptional circumstance. So to repeat, in closing, I would ask the committee to refuse or defer the application to allow the applicant an opportunity to redesign the dwelling to preserve this magnificent tree. I would also note that there will be a urban forestry permit required for this. It is not a a given. There's a separate process whereby trees such as this are protected, and urban forestry authorization will be required. So I just wanted to clarify the applicant, the planner's comment. So thank you very much, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Athey at this time? And just to share with you, I am looking at the memo sent by Urban Forestry. They're saying this memo confirms that Urban Forestry has reviewed the application and does not oppose the requested variances. No approval conditions are requested at this time. So it is not subject to Urban Forestry, but there are, that will be, I guess, part of the considerations as we debate how to move forward with this. Let's move on then to the next speaker. Is a Daniel Betterman or a Rebecca Harris?
Madam Speaker, can I request that we move to the next speaker in order? We are trying to connect with Daniel.
Oh, you're still, okay. So then let's move to Jeff Cattell of the Leaside Association, Neighborhood Association. Mr. Cattell, are you there?
Afternoon. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are. Please, if you can state your name and address for our records.
Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Cattell of the Leaside Residents Association. Our postal address is 1601 Bayview Avenue. I'm representing the Leaside Residents Association today in opposition to the application for the following reasons. First of all, its failure to follow the official plan requirements pertaining to the preservation of the character of residential neighborhoods. Secondly, the excessive coverage and the width, which if approved will further contribute to the diluting of the integrity of the current bylaws. The proposed removal of the tree in the rear yard to accommodate the new dwelling, and the fact that it does not comply with the Leaside preservation guidelines. Leaside, frankly, is a very special. It was a model garden city from 1912, and the homes largely were built in the 1930s, not the 1960s. And there's a special character, Tudor revival, Georgian revival in the neighborhoods like Rumsey, and Rumsey is one of the one of the most well preserved of the streets in Leaside, with an impressive character that people buy there for the character. And it's very unfortunate if someone buys into the area and then tries to destroy the character. The application fails to satisfy the 4 tests for minor variance. By the way, the application is by waiver, and so there may be additional undisclosed variances. First of all, it's not minor. It's too big for the size of the property. As an earlier deputant said, there was no variances required to accommodate a 4-bedroom house of comfortable size. This proposal is on a larger lot than the standard Leaside lot. There's no need for the variance in coverage if the garage is located as a separate structure at the back of the dwelling or is eliminated. Secondly, the variance is desirable, has to be desirable for the appropriate development of use of the land. The massing of the proposal is too big. It's not minor. This is the first replacement dwelling on the block with a flat roof and no face on the street at the ground level, only an entrance door, garage, and washroom window. The street elevation fails to fit in with the adjacent homes. Thirdly, the variances themselves are not minor. The agent indicated that the lot coverage at 38.09 was not out of range with the neighborhood. And then the examples he quoted refutes what he said, where all the variances on Rumsey were less. There's only a couple. It's very rare to get lot coverage variances in Leaside, and the ones that there are on Rumsey are less than the ones he quoted. Fourthly, the variance has to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, which states that no changes shall be made through rezoning and so on. That is not in keeping with the physical character of the neighborhood. The proposed dwelling with its flat roof will look out of place and will destroy the uniform rhythm of peaked roof lines along the street. That is so pleasant when you walk or bike or drive along that street. No surprise that people are concerned about this application. In closing, the impact of the proposed flat roof design and the variances to coverage and side yards and removal of mature trees is undesirable. This proposal is not in keeping with the intent of the existing zoning bylaws or the official plan and does not meet the tests for approval of minor variances. We appreciate your consideration of our comments and request that the application for variances be denied. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Cattell? Okay, there being none, Mr. Bridgeraj, have we been able to get Mr. Betterman or Ms. Harris on the line?
Madam Chair, we have not been able to connect with either of them.
Okay. So in that essence, we've tried and we've not been able to connect, so we'll leave it there. Let me take it right back to the agent then. Mr. Eagleman, you've heard what the Leaside Residents Association as well as very impassioned neighbors have had to say about this application. You've got 5 minutes to share a rebuttal on their concerns.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So firstly, I will just address the silver maple again, although I did address it in my presentation at the outset of this, that it is generally understood, and Urban Forestry actually explains it within their memorandum issued for this application, that typically when there is a tree within an as-of-right building envelope, Urban Forestry does not take issue with the removal of that tree because they understand that it is within an envelope that could be constructed as of right, and therefore, as of right, they could remove that tree subject to a permit being issued by Urban Forestry. But again, Urban Forestry usually does not take concern when there are trees that are being removed as a result of an as of right building envelope. And that is the case in this situation where Mr. Athey is actually correct that yes, a permit will be required for the silver maple in the rear yard. Even though Urban Forestry is not recommending any conditions, we still would need to submit a permit application to Urban Forestry to remove that tree. And the appropriate replantings or cash in lieu will be provided at that point to Urban Forestry. And Urban Forestry has no issues with the proposed removal, which again is a result of an as-of-right envelope on the subject property. Regarding some of the concerns, specifically, I know a number of the neighbors and the Residents Association, they brought up the flat roof design. However, we are not requesting any variances to height, overall height, or wall height, and that roof design is permitted as of right at the height that it is proposed. And again, I would just, in terms of what Mr. Coder from the Residents Association mentioned, he mentioned that lot coverage variances are rare in this neighborhood. However, I disagree with that, and I researched to support that. There are, within 500 meters of this property, there are 152 Committee of Adjustment decisions, 15 of which only have been refused. The rest have all been approved. And a large majority of them requested coverage variances, and the average of those coverage variance approvals are 38.04%. So that is very similar to the variance that we are requesting today. And again, I'll reiterate that the coverage variance is only approximately 130 square feet of additional lot coverage over what is permitted as of right. So 130 square feet of this dwelling could be cut off, which is a very small amount of area, and then we would be compliant with lot coverage. So that variance is very minor. And again, similar to my discussion on the coverage variances, there have been many side yard setback approvals in this neighborhood as well, and the average of those approvals is at 0.71 meters. So approximately 19 centimeters less than what we're proposing for this dwelling. And again, on one side, on the north side, that setback actually increases at certain points along the wall because of its staggered design, and also because the north side lot line is on a bit of an angle. So in my opinion, I think the variances are quite minor. I think that a number of the neighbors' concerns stem from the fact that they are upset about an original dwelling being removed from this neighborhood, which I understand. However, it has to be recognized that a new building can be constructed as of right with no variances, and that house can be removed. The original house can be demolished and a new building can be constructed as of right. So this proposal is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. It fits, and it fits in harmoniously, and in my opinion meets the four tests under section 45.1. So thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll just reiterate again that lastly that we are not seeking any variances for FSI, length, depth, height. So I think that alone demonstrates that the massing of the dwelling will be in keeping with the neighborhood.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mr. Eagleman. Members, do you have any questions for? Yes, Member Manning, go ahead.
Just a clarification, really. I think you said earlier that the south and north side setbacks were an improvement of the existing condition. Is that correct? And if so, what is the existing setback?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I mentioned that the south side is an improvement to the existing condition, and that the existing condition on the south side is 0.22 meters at its narrowest point and 0.8 meters at its widest point, and that is shown on the survey. If we can go to that quickly, I can just demonstrate that on the south side there. So if you zoom in there, you'll see at the front of the dwelling there is a small jut out that goes to 0.22, and then at the front of the dwelling it goes to 0.37, and then at the back where it's at its widest point at the one-story brick addition, it goes to 0.8 meters, and we are proposing 0.9 on the south side.
Okay, Member Manning or anyone else, further questions? Okay, that being said, you've heard what the neighbors and the association has said. There is a councillor's letters requesting deferral, 5 variances, a couple of letters of opposition, but there are no urban forestry concerns at this time. I'll leave it to members for a motion. Okay, Member Manning, go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, a motion to approve this application and these variances. I've listened to the neighbors' concerns, but in regards to the maple tree, a permit from forestry is going to be required anyways. And I do think that these variances meet the 4 tests for minor variances, and I accept the applicant's explanations. So there's no objections from planning or from forestry, so that will be with no conditions.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to approve this application as is, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Opposed? Member Atterodi dissenting. Mr. Eagleman, your application has been approved without conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I will see you later this afternoon.
Okay. Committee members, let's move on to item number 19, which is 91 Palm Drive. 91 Palm Drive is an application to construct a rear and second floor addition and interior alterations. There are 10 variances noted, and transportation has some specific conditions as of their February 10th report. Nothing else, though, has been noted. So I will ask, and there is a staff report of February 9th, by the way, sorry, with specific requests for revisions, as well as a condition if the application is modified. So with that, I'll invite Isaac Michaelov, the agent for this application.
Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. As you stated, my name is Isaac Michaelov. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry for the noise in the background. We've got construction around us.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Please bear
it's
with
okay.
us, and if you
My
can
name is,
state your address.
yeah, so my address is 363 Hillmount Avenue. I'm here on behalf of Lauren and Michael Garber, who are the owners of 91 Palm Avenue. I'll be happy to answer any questions the committee might have, but would like to say that after some work, we have obtained the support of the planning department as well as that of transportation services. We also have 6 letters of approval from surrounding neighbors. And yeah, if you wish, I can answer any questions you might have now.
Okay, I don't see that there's anyone else to speak to this application, but I also note with the staff report that they are asking for specific modifications. Are you going to be making those revisions? Is there any
Yes.
confirmation of that? And can you state what those revisions are now for our records? Please tell us the variance number and what you're changing them from and to.
Sure. So what we discussed with Julia from planning is that the depth of the rear yard deck would be reduced from 4.5 meters to 3.75 meters. That was on variance number 2.
So variance number 2
On
changes
variance,
from 4.36 meters to 3.75 meters. Please continue.
correct. On variance number 3, we discussed that the reason that it was labeled as 38.9% coverage was due to the deck exceeding the allowance of a deck onto the rear yard setback, and as a result, it counted as cover. It was counted as coverage, and in reality, it's actually the coverage of the residence is 35.86 meters. And that was reduced with my changes to variance number 2. And on variance number 5, we had a raised ceiling in the principal suite, which created a total height of 8.3 meters. And we agreed with planning that I would eliminate the raised ceiling and lower the height of the structure to 7.7 meters.
Okay, so variance number 5 is reduced to 7.7 meters. And just to confirm, variance number 3 has been reduced to, can you state that again? The actual lot coverage by default?
No, it wasn't. It was just it went a long way in making it more acceptable to planning.
Okay, so there's no changes to variance number 3. We've only got variance
Correct.
number 2 and number 5 so far, right?
Correct. And number 9 goes along with number 5. So the changes that were done there, that were made to number 5, also will reduce the impact of number 9.
Okay, so that also changes to 7.7 meters, variance number 9.
Correct.
And are you okay with transportation conditions of their February 10th report?
Absolutely. We just received it. Yeah, well, I just noticed it today, but we're totally fine with it. Yes.
Okay, that being said, I'm going to see if members of the committee, do you require a further presentation? Yes, Member Kidd, you would like, go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I just have one question. I don't think I need a presentation on this, but I'm looking at variance number 7, which seems awfully large to me. If I can get some kind of explanation with regard to that, please.
Mr. Michaelov, if you can respond to Member Kidd's questions.
Yes, so the building depth, this is a revision to the first floor and an addition to the second floor, and the building length was not increased at all. So it's existing non-conforming.
Thank you. I didn't see that. That's with regard to the building length and the depth. They're both existing conditions, are they?
Correct, which is existing.
Thank you.
Committee members, do you have any other questions? Mr. Michaelov, is there anything else that you'd like to share with committee members before they take this into consideration for decision-making?
No, not really, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, 10 variances. Transportation has some conditions as of their Feb 10th report. There is a staff report of Feb 9th of which he's met all of those changes, and there is one condition to be attached if those changes were made. Can I get a motion on this application? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair, I'm ready to put forward a motion to approve this application with the following changes. Variance number 2, the proposed platform encroachment is now 3.75 meter. Variance number 5, the proposed wall height is now 7.70 meters. And variance number 9, also the proposed wall height is now 7.70 meters. And also, I want to add the condition of the staff that the proposal be developed substantially according with the revised site plan and the south elevation drawing submitted on February 9th, 2023, and subjected to a transportation report and conditions.
Thank you, Member Attarodi, who is putting forward a motion to approve this application with those conditions. Can I get someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Okay, your application has been unanimously approved, Mr. Michaelov, with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Okay, members, let's move on to item number 21, as item number 20 has been deferred. And item number 21 is number 115 Parklea Drive. So 115 Parklea Drive is a proposal to construct a new dwelling. 6 variances are noted, and there is a transportation report of February 13th that has some specific conditions. I also see that forestry conditions apply. And on this is only one, well, there's the agent, and there is someone to speak to this, but he's noted as the owner, so I'll just check with the agent if that's true. We've got a Hamid Behesht. Mr. Behesht, are you there?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear.
I can hear you now, Mr. Behesht.
Oh,
state
all
your
right,
name
yes.
And address for our records, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members and committee staff. My name is Hamid Behesht from Homeland. I'm the co-designer of the house from 49 Whitecliff Crescent in Toronto.
Okay. And members, Mr. Behesht, I just wanted to double check. We do have a Jason Yee that's noted to speak to this, but is that the owner of the property?
No, Madam Chair, he's the owner of the adjacent property at 111 Parklea Drive.
Okay, so therefore, he will need to speak to this application. So what I will do is I will ask you to make a presentation. You have 5 minutes to share the merits of this application with committee members.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To start the presentation, I would like to ask Alex or Irvin or Sam to kindly show slide number 1, please. Thank you so much. Here, I would like to, which is the site plan of the proposed house. I would like to focus on the driveway width, which is slightly increased from 3.2 meters to 3.35 meters. It's just an increase of 15 centimeters or 6 inches, which is totally harmless because it doesn't trigger the front yard landscaping or soft landscaping. And as you can see, we're going to have lots of beautiful green areas there. Secondly, it's the side setback reduction to the east side only. It is limited to the tiny stripe shown in color red, and that is for the front, almost 20 feet of the house only, not for the entire of the house, entire building length. And I would like to make the subject clearer on sheet number 2, please, if I can kindly see it. Here, which shows the part of the first floor plan, I have the garage at the right side, the entrance or foyer at the middle, and a roof or, a room or library at the left side. The garage width is the minimum by the zoning bylaw. The foyer or entrance is only 5 feet wide, which really cannot be even less narrower. And also a room called library at the left side, which is only 9 feet wide. I really hate designing any room which is less than 10 feet, which I believe should be the minimum width of every room. But in this case, despite the side setback reduction, all of these three side-by-side spaces are minimum. So that's why I needed to push the building a little bit to the east side. But as I said, it is limited to the that small portion of the front of the house, not the entire building length. And it's good to know that it is not extending to the basement. So in the basement level, the side setback in that area remains 0.9 meter or 3 feet, which shows that we're not going to have any problem in terms of the excavation or anything like that. This slight increase is responsible for the FSI increase of the house, which I would like to see some FSI samples of the area in sheet number 3, please. Here, the subject property is shown in color green. Lots of properties in the area shown in color red are all been approved for either similar or more FSI. Actually, based on my own calculations, the average FSI of the area is 63.5%. Ours is 62% only. Furthermore, in sheet number 4, I have shown the extended height of the house, which is limited to the top tiny room, tiny stripe showed by color pink. This house has a pitched roof, which is sloped at both, actually all 3 sides, left, right, and the front. It means that when the roof reaches that extended height, it gets very small. So it really doesn't impact any adjacent properties or streetscape or anything like that. Basically, in eye level or streetscape, what we see from this house is the blue area of the house, which is something even less than 7 meters. I would like to take everybody's attention to the top left corner, to that geodetic elevation of 141.84, which is the that number, which is the geodetic elevation of the top of the peak of the roof, actually. Now, if you go to sheet number 5, which is the survey of this property and adjacent left and right properties, I would like to take your attention to the left side house with POR, which stands for peak of roof, of 141.96 for the existing house at 111 PARKLEA Drive. It means when you compare with our proposal, it means that our new proposed house is going to be 12 centimeters or around 5 inches even shorter than the right side existing house. You can see this in next sheet, which is a picture showing the existing house. And also, I'm talking about the right side house, which is a totally normal house. It's not that high or unusually high. Our proposed house is going to be even shorter than that, as I explained.
Mr. Behesht, if I
finally,
can ask you to summarize, yeah?
Yes, I'm finished in time. I just would like to remind you that we have 8 supporting letters. I would like it to be shown quickly from 25 PARKLEA Drive, 93 Parklea, 105 Parklea, 108 Parklea, 111 Parklea, and the houses at the back, 58 Vanderhoof Avenue, 79 Vanderhoof Avenue, and even one at the intersection at the end of the block at 393 Sutherland Drive. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Bahish at this time? Okay, there being none, let's turn it over to the next speaker and area resident, Jason Yee. Mr. Yee, are you on the call?
Madam Chair,
I just wanted to understand.
Yes, Mr. Yee, if you can restate your name and address for our records. You got cut off there for a moment.
Okay, no problem. Jason Yee, owner of 111 Parklea Drive.
Okay, thank you. And can you share your concerns with us today?
I actually have no concerns or objections. I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going through on the development based on the presentation.
Was that clear enough for you, or did you have any
Yes.
questions?
Yes, it was.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it was just a consideration of, being clear on the application. Mr. Bahish, members, do you have any questions at all of the speaker or Mr. Bahish? Go ahead, Mr. Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a concern about the variance number 5, the proposed east side yard setback at 0.6 meters. And as I noticed in your presentation that the 0.6 meters applied only to the front 20 feet or so of the east yard east yard setback. Would you be okay with us tying that the decision to the site plan drawing so that the 0.6 meters doesn't get applied to the entire east side of the house?
Absolutely, Mr. Kidd. I'm totally all right with that, and I'm not going to change anything. It will be the drawings you are seeing in front of you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, members? Okay. Mr. Bahish, is there any final thoughts before they take it into committee? I know you didn't respond to the other neighbor, so I'm giving you a moment to respond right now to anything you'd like to.
Yes, I would like to thank the neighbor, who is a very reasonable and nice gentleman. I delivered letters for all the neighbors, and he was nice enough to contact me just a few days ago, and we spoke over the phone, and I explained everything. And I'm happy that he also supports us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That being said, and if there's no further questions, committee members, you have a decision to make. Can I get a motion, please? And just to let you know that this has the 6 variances. There is transportation services with some specific conditions. I believe forestry does apply here as well. Please, can I get a motion? Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel this is an appropriate proposal for this property and meets the 4 tests for minor variance. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application and make it subject to the condition that the property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing attached to this application. And I'd like to make it subject to the conditions set out in the Transportation Services Report dated February the 13th, 2023, and subject to the forestry condition number 3.
Okay. Thank you so much. Motion from Member Kidd to approve with those conditions. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Mr. Bahish, your application has been unanimously approved with those specific conditions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, and thank you, committee staff.
All right. So let's move on to item number 22, and then perhaps we can take a break. So item number 22 is 31 to 33 Tournament Drive, and this is an application to construct a new dwelling. There are 4 variances that are noted. There is also a Transportation Services February 13th report that recommends approval. And then we've got city planning staff that recommends specific modifications to variances number 2. So with this, we've got Franco Romano and no one else to speak to this application. Mr. Romano, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Franco Romano, 2095 Autumn Breeze, Port Credit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, do you feel that you need a presentation on this application? I don't.
Yes.
Yes, from Member Manning. Okay, so Mr. Romano, if you wouldn't mind giving us a presentation on this for decision making.
I don't mind at all. Thank you, Madam Chair. If staff can bring up my presentation material, you'll see that on the cover page, slide number 1, I've made the modifications that we had discussed with planning staff and that planning staff are referring to, and that is that the 53% portion of the side wall variance is now changed from 8.05 meters to 7.58 meters. And that,
you are, sorry, you're
so that's,
modifying, you're making the modifications. The staff.
yes, the modifications, correct. Yes, so that is the modification that we made in consultation with staff. So the sidewall height beyond the 7.58 meters is only for windows that penetrate the that wall height of 7.58 meters. So it's to very discrete portions of the sidewall. This proposal is actually for a building addition. So we are working with some existing conditions and building on top of it, which triggers the overall height variance of 50 centimeters just to basically center the center ridge line of the roof and that front top cupola. Otherwise, the rest of the roof is 10 meters or lower. And the building length of 17.31 meters, that only applies because there is a porch door bump out in the front central portion of the ground floor that triggers that 17.31 meters. Otherwise, the rest of the house, I believe, is at 16.83 meters and I can certainly bring us to the floor plans if you'd like to look at that. The tandem parking space is basically, what that means is that there's one car parked in front of the other inside the garage, and that's 5.03 meters. It's still a functional parking space, and you see that transportation is okay with that variance. If we go to slide number 2, we'll see that in slide number 2, the building footprint that's being proposed is basically squaring off the existing L-shaped house. So that's where the building addition is and squaring off the building. And then there's a second story constructed on top. Side yard setbacks are larger than the zoning bylaw requires. The bylaw requires 1.8 and the proposal is at 2.11 meters, which are existing side yard setbacks. Lot coverage is lower than what is permitted. And you'll see that the 2-story building with the integral garage is very much in keeping with particularly the more recent construction that's occurring, but even compatible with existing 2-story dwellings. So subject to any questions, I would submit that the variance application as revised satisfies all 4 tests for a minor variance. And I thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Romano. Members, do you have any questions of the agent here today? Okay, there being none, please note that the agent has modified variance number 2 to meet the staff report. That is the staff report, the city planning recommendation, and transportation recommends approval, and there's 4 variances noted. If I can get a motion, please. Okay, motion from Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel the requested variances are minor in nature, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application with a revision to variance number 2 to read the height of the east and west side exterior main walls to be changed from 8.05 meters for 53% of the wall to be changed to 7.58 meters for 53% of the walls. And without condition.
Okay, so motion from Member Kidd to approve that application with those specific conditions to meet the planning staff recommendations. Can I have someone to second that motion, please? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Mr. Romano, your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, kindly appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too. Committee members, let's take a 10-minute break. See you back in 10 minutes, and we'll start with application number 2330 Bombay Avenue. Thank you. All right, just inviting panel members to come back. I'm not able to see them on the screen. They're all there. And just missing member Attarodi at this time. Am I not seeing her yet on screen? Okay, there we go. Okay, committee members, welcome back, and let's jump right into it. We have item number 2330 Bombay Avenue, and this is an application to construct a two-story addition to the rear and over garage of an existing dwelling. There's only one variance noted. We've got no one to speak to this application, just the agent, Mr. Christopher Yanis. Mr. Yanis, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, welcome back to the afternoon session. I know you were there presenting at the AM session, but can you state your name and address for our records once more?
Christopher Zianis, 41 Yorkshire Road.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zianis. Members, there's only one variance noted, and there's no one else to speak to this application. Do you require a presentation at this time? There being none, Mr. Zianis, is there anything that you'd like to share with committee members before they take this into committee for decision-making?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions they may have.
Sure. Panel members, if there are no more questions, can I get a motion on this application? Member Attarodi with a motion.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application. It's a minor variance.
Thank you.
With no condition.
Member Attarodi with a motion to approve this application as is. Can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, moving on to item number 24, which is 530 Millwood Road. Millwood Road, and this is a proposal to construct additions to the front and rear of the existing dwelling, a front porch and a rear deck. And I see that there's only one person noted to speak to this application. There's also only one variance and no other reports. Mr. J. Smith, are you there?
I am, Madam Chair. Jay Smith, 2814 Hollington Crescent.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to just double check. Committee members, do you require a presentation on this application? Okay, no presentation required. Mr. Smith, is there anything you'd like to share with committee members before they deliberate on this application?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, so this application has only one variance. Committee members, if there are no further questions, can I get a motion on this application? Member Manning with a motion.
For you, Madam Chair, a motion to approve this application, subject to no conditions.
Thank you. An motion from Member Manning to approve without conditions, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? The application has been unanimously approved. Mr. Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, committee members, let's move on to item number 25. This is 74 SHALLMAR Boulevard. This is an application to a proposal to enclose the front porch. And there is no one else to speak to this application. There are 3 variances that are noted and nothing further. The agent on this file is Mr. David Bronskill. Mr. Bronskill, are you there?
Madam Chair, David Bronskill has been unmuted.
I am here. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you now. If you can state your name
Thank you.
and
Great.
address for the record.
Yes, it's David Bronskill. Our office address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you. Members, I'll ask, do you require a presentation for this application? 3 variances noted and nothing further. Yes, I'm seeing Member Manning talking, but you'd like a presentation?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Bronskill, if you can proceed with providing a brief presentation on this application for.
Yes, thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair, to interrupt. Yes, I can. And thank you for staff for putting up the presentation. If I could ask staff maybe just to go to the last slide, which is the rendering that's incorporating on the front. That's the porch that would be enclosed. That design, and I was back in front of you previously, actually on this house when it was approved. And the porch at the time, the owners had not wanted to enclose it, so it was open air. The area under it, as part of the proposal, remains unexcavated, but it would be enclosed on the 3 sides with then a second set of doors on the inside. So essentially an entryway or a vestibule. And if staff could maybe go back up to the site plan, you can then see that. Thank you very much. It's at the front there. That's the area now that would be enclosed on the 2 sides and on the front. Because it's enclosed, it then counts as GFA, which is a variance that's before you. It also triggers the variance for the front yard setback because it's now measured to that enclosed space, and it triggers the additional length when what was approved before was 22.1. All of them coming from just enclosing that porch. I would just submit to the committee, it was open before, it's now going to be enclosed and glassed and act more like a vestibule. We don't think there are any impacts, and it's consistent with the previous design, and we hope that the committee would approve it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Bronskill? If there are no questions, members, 3 variances noted, no other concerns from staff or any other city reports. Can I get a motion? Yes, Member Attarodi, sorry.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Okay, motion from Member Attarodi to approve without condition. Can I have a seconder for this? Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved without condition. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, committee members, if we can move on to item number 26. This is number 183 Brighton Avenue. And this is a proposal to construct a 2nd-story addition, new front porch and rear roof canopy on an existing dwelling. There's no one else to speak to this application. It is 1 agent. There's 2 variances as well as 6 letters of support. Patricia Main, are you there?
Yes, my husband, John Stockfish, and I are here. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Which one of you will be speaking? And if so, please state your name and address for the records, please.
Sure. My name is John Stockfish, Stockfish, 183 Brighton Avenue, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stockfish, I'm just going to double check with committee members as no one is here to speak to this application. 2 variances and 6 letters of support. Do you require a presentation?
Not at this time. Speak to anything.
Sorry, I was talking to committee members.
So, Madam Chair, are we looking at 2 or 3 variances?
Let me just double check here because I might have.
Thank you.
We are looking at my mistake. 3 variances. Yes. So it is the right application. Okay. Thank you, Member Attarodi. Do you all require a presentation on this application? No? Okay, Mr. Sorfish, they don't require any a presentation at this time. Is there anything you'd like to say in order, for their consideration before they take it into committee for decision-making?
Not at this time, but we appreciate the consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, if there are no more questions, can I get a motion on this application? Member Attarodi, please go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application, and it's very minor in nature, with no condition.
Thank you. Member Attarodi with a motion to approve without condition, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Mrs. Sawfish, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to application number 27, which is 274 St. Clements Avenue. This is an application to construct a rooftop deck. There are 2 variances noted. There are also 8 signatures of support. There is a staff report of January 30th with some standard conditions, some specific conditions to develop the site plan in accordance with the drawings that were submitted. Here we have Mr. David Eagleman again, and there is one area resident to speak to the application. Mr. Eagleman, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, committee members. David Eagleman, Senior Planner here on behalf of the owner, 900 the East Mall Suite 300.
Okay, Mr. Eagleman, if you can give us a short presentation of the merits of your application. We do have one area resident to speak to this application.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So through you, Madam Chair, before getting into the variances, I would like to note that we have consulted with community planning staff regarding this application, and they have expressed no concerns or objections to the proposal, provided that the Committee of Adjustment impose a condition that the proposal be constructed substantially in accordance with the plan submitted, and I find that condition to be acceptable. Further, we have consulted with adjacent and surrounding neighbors and have submitted, and we have obtained and submitted a multitude of signatures in support of this proposal, which has been submitted to the Committee of Adjustment. It is now on the screen, and specifically, both immediately adjacent neighbors are in support of the proposal at 272 and 276 St. Clements Avenue, as noted on the submitted letter you are looking at now. The proposal in front of you today is simply to convert an existing roof portion of the house above a 1-story rear extension at the rear into a deck. So as you can see on the site plan that you're looking at now, where it says the proposed roof deck and there is hatching, that is an existing 1-story addition at the rear of the house, and the proposal is simply to convert the roof of that 1-story addition into a patio or a deck. The first variance, which relates to the area of that deck, the area of the deck is simply commensurate with the existing area of the rooftop above the 1-story extension upon which the deck is to be constructed. So
Sorry, go ahead, continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That area of the area of the deck is essentially an existing condition because, again, we're just converting that existing roof above the 1-story addition into a deck. The deck will not increase the area of the rooftop in any way and will only convert the existing roof area into usable amenity space by enclosing it with a deck fence. And I will note that the existing dwelling is only 14 meters in length. So essentially an as of right dwelling could be constructed 3 meters longer than what is being proposed, and could have windows at the rear of the dwelling that would provide very similar, if not the same views as the proposed deck, and would be closer to the rear yard. And in addition to that point, we essentially the proposal could be changed to an addition to enclose that rooftop portion entirely, and again could have windows all around it, and it would effectively be exactly the same as what we are proposing today, but would be permitted as of right because it wouldn't be considered a deck. It would just be an addition. And that would, again, provide the exact same views essentially as the proposed deck. And there have been other examples of similar variances approved in the neighborhood. 222 St. Clement's was approved for a platform area of 38.26 square meters. 660 Oriole Parkway was approved for a platform area of 15.23 square meters. And 681 Oriole Parkway was approved for a platform area of 24.56 square meters. And I will also note that there are many dwellings in this neighborhood which have a design with 2 stories above an integral garage. And this design necessitates a higher, if you are to have a rear deck on those dwellings, it necessitates a higher rear deck height, even though it would only be accessed off the first floor. And those rear decks on those types of houses that are in the neighborhood would have essentially a similar sized deck at the first floor, but at the same height or similar height to the proposed deck. And again, that would be permitted as of right. And just quickly to touch on the side yard setback variance, that is an existing condition, again, because the rear addition upon which the deck is to be built is existing, and that is set back 0.13 meters from the east side yard. And the proposed deck will just be maintaining that existing setback because, again, the deck is not changing anything from what is existing on the subject property. So
If I could ask
it is
you
my
to
opinion,
summarize,
Madam Chair.
please, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I am done. I am of the opinion that this proposal fits in with the existing and planned context, is consistent with similar proposals along St. Clement's and the broader neighborhood context. And for these reasons, I believe this application represents good planning and meets the 4 tests under Section 45(1). Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Committee members, do you have any questions of Mr. Eagleman? All right. If none, no questions at this time. Let's move on to the first speaker. There's only one, Miriam Pokorski. Miriam Pokorski, are you there?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
If you could state your name and address for our records, please.
Hello, members and Madam Chair. My name is Miriam Pokorski, and I reside at 269 Briar Hill.
Thank you. And what are your thoughts? What would you like to share with the committee?
Okay, well, essentially, I was away on holiday up until 2 days ago and received this in the mail. And so I cannot, I must admit, I'm not fully prepared or completely understanding. I did get a call from Mr. D'Souza, the owner, Melvin, when I was in Florida, and he said that he would like my support to build a deck. And it sounded quite simplistic, and I didn't quite understand why he needed my support for a deck. But nonetheless, when I got home and I saw that I had a notice to attend this hearing, I realized that it was something more. I could understand that there's supporting letters from adjacent neighbors. I'm his neighbor to the direct back. So his deck directly faces the back of mine. So I'm in a different situation. I'm not represented today. I don't know if I needed more time, perhaps with your assistance. I won't. I'm looking to understand, but I'm also looking to have some of my concerns addressed as to privacy. I understand that through the drawings, there's going to be an aluminum railing all around for 27 for the area, and the height of it is 3.6 inches approximately. So it's kind of the way I see it from the back of my house. It's like a viewing gallery, and anybody could be at any point on that deck, the full width of the house, and viewing into my backyard and into the back of my house, which has floor to ceiling windows as well. If it was an enclosed area like a house, Yes, the windows might also exist, but this definitely leans to no privacy. I know there's also a very large skylight on the deck that takes a good chunk of the deck. So I'm not too sure the extent of this work that they're doing, if down the road their thoughts are to enclose it, because in order to make a door to be accessible, they'd have to transform one of the windows, which I see in the drawing they have, as well as somehow remove this 6-foot skylight, or else it's taking a big chunk of the deck. So how they design it, it's up to them, but it just seems unusual. The material is aluminum, and I find that very harsh. And because of the height is only 3 feet 6 inches, I was hoping for some privacy when I spoke to Mr. D'Souza, of approximately 6 feet high, so that anybody above 3 foot 6 inches can't just hang out the railing and keep looking into my backyard. My grade is also different than theirs, so because it's kind of lower, it kind of lends more easily to it. They also have an existing porch there, and it appears that when they cover the existing porch, it will extend actually past the neighbors to the west, because if I look at some of the pages that I could refer you to, you could see on the drawing, the viewing gallery on page 7 of 9 is how I'm seeing it, of his submission. I also see that in that drawing, it shows the height of the railing. Also on page 4, the existing porch, which is already 6 feet by, which is already 4 foot 8 by 9 feet, is going to appear to be enclosed too, which will extend past what is a new addition to the house next to it on the west. So it looks like it's a bigger footprint. As a result of that, I think that I can't really make out. I'm not an architect, so I apologize. I don't know how to have the same skill set as all of you, but certainly the area that is going to be left in the backyard seems very minor, very small compared to what will result after this. So I'm looking to have either the size of it not include the porch, the existing porch, so that it doesn't extend past the existing house. Again, I'm a neighbor that is directly affected, so I probably wouldn't have given him the support as is. I would have asked for revised drawings that would have ensured that I had some privacy in the back of my house. And I'm also requesting that I don't see this as a minor variance. The way I see it, as I'm an accountant, so it's that it's representing 1/3 of the building size. So to me, that seems quite major. And I think other than that, not totally prepared as a result of the timing, as well as not having anybody come visit me and discuss the plans with me beforehand. So I'm sorry if I've taken your time here, but in terms of the timing of this, it was unfortunate that I just returned from holiday.
Okay, so you made some very solid points there, and you are being directly affected by this. So how about we bring the agent back on? And what I'll do before that, though, is I'd like committee members, is there any questions or comments that you can offer this area resident? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I was out there on the site visit, we can't go down into the backyards to look around, but I did look down the side of the house. It looked like there was fairly heavily treed along the back line there. I was thinking about the overlook issues. Can the neighbor just fill us in on what that rear line lot line is looks like during the summer, or I guess when the foliage is in?
Am I to speak?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I do have a couple of I'm not too sure the names of the trees, but they're not as healthy as they used to be, I must admit, and because they've become larger, they're actually, a lot of the foliage is at the top of the tree, which is way higher than the homes and not at the bottom. So it's kind of I apologize for my layman terms, but it's kind of like a stick going all the way up, and then maybe at 40 feet or 50 feet, that's where the foliage starts. And a lot of the foliage is now on my adjacent properties because of the way the branches are so long that they're extending over. So currently I could see into their windows. I've submitted some pictures that could which were just done of today because I just know it. And so I have some pictures in the file. If someone could bring them up, you could kind of get a sense of that tree that I'm talking about, where the foliage, you can't even see the branches until the very top.
Yeah, city staff is pulling that up as we speak, but maybe if you could continue and give the members an idea of what that might look like.
So as I said, my concern is that, 3 feet 5, is very low. It's just a safety, I guess, standard or something to code. It's not privacy. I did speak to Mel, the owner, briefly 2 days ago when I got this and asked him if he would be accepting of something like that. He kind of just said he kind of left it in his agent's hands, but he felt that, privacy was important. But I wasn't aware that it was aluminum, and I don't see how aluminum can be offer privacy like that. So that's my concern. So it's kind of like a see-through into my backyard. And because I have floor to ceiling windows and I'm lower than him at any level on that desk, on that deck, I would not have any coverage from the leaves in the summertime, and I won't have any coverage from my existing fence, although it's partially broken right now. It fell down. And there's also other items on his property, like a very large shed. And I, as I expressed, I'm not too sure how far, if you look at the neighbor to the east, which is on the left-hand side when you're looking, they don't have that addition built out, but the neighbor to the right does. But once Mr. D'Souza extends out, he will be past, and you could see that on the planning drawing, he will be past significantly what his neighbor is at. And so on page 3 of 9, I don't know how to read these numbers, but from the visual, it looks like the porch, the enclosed deck is going to extend past what a new addition build is, which is, the maximum that I thought he would build, because that would line up nicely with, something, as the agent was saying, it's consistent with other properties. I have not seen anybody else have an outdoor deck like this. I've lived there for 25 years or so now. So I was actually kind of surprised. I have seen additions built like that neighbor to the west, but I have not seen a deck like this. So there's much more exposure. Nobody but me kind of gets it. And I think it's excessively large in terms of width and in terms of depth, because it extends. I can't even make out how far it extends from his drawing on page 3 of 9.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I think that answers my
question. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, so you really do not believe that this meets the 4 tests because you find that it is not minor and it is out of character for the neighborhood, is what you're saying?
It's out of character. It's not. It doesn't seem minor, and it seems quite invasive of my privacy, because it's very exposed, and you could have people hanging off the railings looking into my house, and that I find a little bit disconcerting.
Okay, thank you so much for your input. And if there are no other questions from committee members, just looking to make sure, then let's bring back out Mr. Eagleman. Mr. Eagleman, how would you, address the concerns of the neighbor that's directly impacted by this application?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I will first just preface, if we can go to the site plan, which I now see is on the screen, and just zoom out a little bit. You can see that, again, I will reiterate that we are not changing anything with the existing house. The deck is purely going to be converting an existing roof portion above the 1-story rear addition into a deck. So it's essentially just putting some deck boards on the roof and a fence, and now it is considered a deck. And you can see on the right-hand side of the site plan, the 17.88 meters. That is from the proposed deck, which again is the existing one-story addition, to the rear lot line. That is almost 60 feet of separation distance between the proposed deck and the rear lot line, which is the same lot line that is shared with Mrs. Pokorski. So, and then of course she has additional setback in her house, which provides quite a bit of separation distance between the proposed deck and her amenity space in the rear yard, as well as her dwelling itself. And it is not, as the committee may know, it is not very typical for privacy screening to be proposed on the face of the balcony or deck, which is the face of the balcony that this is intended to look out on. It's typically, privacy screening is typically required on the sides to protect privacy from the immediately adjacent dwellings, because those are typically the most impacted properties. And in this case, both adjacent neighbors are in support of the proposal and have no concerns. And so it is also my understanding, from as per information provided by the architect, that in this case, providing privacy screening on the sides is not really feasible. And I don't think, excuse me, it is really necessary, because again, both immediately adjacent neighbors are in support of this proposal. And in my opinion, if there were to be any impact from this deck, it would be on those adjacent neighbors who are in support. And I will again reiterate that this could be proposed. The existing house is at 14 meters in length. So the permitted length on this property is 17 meters. So this house could be torn down and rebuilt as a 17-meter length house, where it would the rear wall would be 3 meters further back from where it is currently located, and then you could have an as of right 4 square meter balcony off of that, which would be closer to the neighbor to the rear. And you would also, and that would be permitted as of right. And again, we can also enclose this deck, propose it as an enclosed addition, and again, and put windows all around it, and it would be permitted as of right, and would have the same, almost the exact same privacy impacts that this proposed deck will be, which are not more than what is contemplated by the bylaw, considering what I just mentioned. And lastly, I'll just note that this proposed deck is off of the second floor. There are only bedrooms on the second floor. So really this deck is intended to be more of for the use of the owners themselves. It's off of bedrooms on the second floor. And I will also note that the owners of the property are an elderly couple. They have older children who have moved out of the house, and their intention is not to, use this deck all day, all night with multiple people on this deck. It is intended for their use to enjoy the outside and have a little bit more amenity space on a nice new deck at the second floor. So it is my opinion that this proposal is minor. It meets the 4 tests, and I believe that the application should be approved today. So if you have any questions, Madam Chair or committee, I'm happy to answer them, but those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions of Mr. Eagleman today? Okay, so we have a decision to make. You've heard from the neighbor, and you've heard the rebuttal from Mr. Eagleman. And, just noting that there are 2 variances. They're substantive variances, but there are 8 signatures of support, a staff report that's, asking for 1 condition. I'll leave it in your capable hands if I can get a motion. Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I'm ready to put forward a motion. And I was carefully listening to the applicant and also as well as the neighbors who just have some concerns. As Mr. Eagleman mentioned, the length of the house is within the bylaws, and I was convinced with his explanation that he can easily enclose that space and just submit it as an addition to the building. Therefore, I've been convinced that this is an appropriate design, and I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application. We'd only consider one staff condition mentioned on January 30th, 2023, that the property be developed in accordance with the site plan drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, and that is my motion with no other conditions.
Okay, motion from Member Atarodi to approve the application and make it subject to the January 30th staff report conditions. Can I get someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Paul. All those in favor? And dissenting? Member Manning dissenting. This application has been approved with those conditions. Mr. Eagleman, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Have a great evening.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, if we can turn it over to item number 28, which is 185 Apache Trail. Please note that this is a proposal to construct a parking pad at the front yard of the existing dwelling. There are 5 variances noted, and Transportation Services has provided a February 8th report. There are just conditions that are noted. And as well, we received a late letter from Councillor Carroll. There was some concerns before that she had expressed, and she is now rescinding those concerns. She feels that this application is appropriate. So I am going to, there's no one else to speak to the application. I'm going to call back IOU.
Madam and committee members.
If you could state your name and address again for the record as you are coming back for this PM session.
My name is Aoyu, again, the agent from LHW Engineer. The address is 2347 Kennedy Road, Scarborough. I'm here today, authorized by the owner of 185 Apache Avenue, to attend the hearing today.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Committee members, I wondered if you require a presentation on this application. There being none, noting that there are 5 variances and that's the transportation conditions, and the councillor has reversed their decision to accept the application. Mr. Yu, is there anything that you would like to share with committee members before they take this into panel for deliberation?
Yes, may I just clarify the condition from the transportation report?
Yes.
There's one condition B, to ensure the maximum width of the proposed parking pad not exceed 2.6 meter. Well, the current parking pad will accommodate one standard parking space in the front, and the rest of the space will be kept as the residence access or walkway to the front door. So there's only one parking space in the front yard, in the parking pad, on the parking pad, and the rest of space will be kept as a walkway. So there's only one parking space at the parking pad.
Okay.
I'm curious, like this condition will be clarified, so that there's only one parking space in the front instead of 2. Because the transportation conditions declare that the parking pad should not exceed more than 2.6 meter. But the space beyond the 2.6 meter will be used as the workspace instead of parking space. So I hope that this condition will be clarified or leave a note over here.
One moment, please. All right, so I've just sought some advice from our Deputy Secretary Treasurer in terms of interpretation of the transportation report, and there is no transportation staff here to be able to do that type of modification. These are recommendations that come down from transport, and so it would be you, if that were a condition that our panel members do put as an, for approval of this application, you would have to work that out with transportation services.
All right, I
But
see. I will work it out with them.
at this time, I'm wondering if committee members, do you have any questions or comments or concerns? Yes, Member Attarodi, go ahead.
To you, Madam Chair. If I'm looking at the transportation conditions, and the second one is that owner will be required to submit revised site plan drawings which demonstrate compliance with the above noted requirement. And the above noted requirement, one of them was ensure that the maximum width of the proposal parking pad is not exceed 2.6 meter. Is that what the applicant have a concern about? Because it's already noted here.
Yes, exactly. That's my concern.
So it's already mentioned here. So is that address your concern?
Well, because the parking space already existing for decades, and everything the owners consider to be keep existing. The owner only want to legalize the front parking space. So he don't want to make any modification except condition A and condition C. But condition B, it's quite hard to make modification just because if only 2.6 meter parking space was built in the front, then there's no space for the residents to walk into the door. That's the owner concern. So the owners still want to keep everything existing. Only to legalize one parking space in the front, and the rest of space will be left for the working space.
Right. Well, your concerns could be taken into consideration, but we do have a report from experts here who are saying this is what is necessary for legalizing it. So let me just see, Member Manning, you have a comment or a question? Member Manning, you're muted. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just a bit blurry on the drawings. Is the existing driveway 2.9 meters? Is that what I'm seeing?
Oh, yes. The existing, there's one driveway slope down to the garage. The width is almost 3 meter, 2.98 meter, and there's an elevated parking pad, which is flat with the entrance door, and this space. The owner want to legalize the one parking space in the front, and the rest of space will be walkway.
Can you confirm how many meters it is, according to Member Manning's question?
Oh, well, the driveway.
This is only the parking pad that transportation is talking to. They're not talking to the rest of the driveway. So if that means that you are able to submit a revised site plan that clearly demonstrates the parking pad itself will not go beyond 2.6 meters, but here's the rest of the driveway, that will support part 2 of the recommendations of the transportation services.
Oh yeah, the rest of space means like the upper side instead of the downside, which is flat with the entrance door. So there's the total width of the upper side is like 3.6 meter. So 2 meter will be used as a parking space, and 1 meter will be used as a walkway.
Okay, so I think that that's what they are trying to get to, that the actual space itself for the vehicle that it's resting on will be no more than 2.6 meters. And, you know, however you do the rest of, you know, the driveway, I'm believing that that's why they're going to ask for revised drawings to ensure that does not exceed 2.6 meters for the actual parking space itself.
Okay.
Now, that's my
Yeah.
interpretation, and I will leave it up to committee to do that. That is also in my conversations with our team here as well. But committee members, do you have any other comments or questions on this application? Then if that's it, we'll take it into committee for consideration. We've got committee members, the 5 variants that are noted, and then transportation services. This is the conditions that they have noted. The councillor does not have any concerns with it. It will be up to you how you propose moving forward on this application. Can I get a motion, please? Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of transportation.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to approve the application subject to transportation conditions as set out on the February 8th report. Someone to second this motion? Member Atarodi seconds. All those in favor? This application has been unanimously approved with those transportation conditions. And if you do need further clarification, please go in and talk to them, and they will be able to explain that more clearly to you. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and member. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good day. Okay, moving on, committee members, to item number 29. This is 200 Golfdale Road. There's quite a number of folks that would like to speak to this application. This is an application to construct a 2-story rear addition to the existing dwelling. There are 3 variances that are noted. And there is a staff report of February 1st with some specific recommendations that were attached. And there is also a forestry condition that's noted as well. So can I bring on Lawrence Cavanaugh, please? Agent Lawrence Cavanaugh.
Madam Chair, Mr. Kavanaugh has been unmuted.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi.
If
So
you
my-
could state your name and address for our records, please.
Lawrence Cavanaugh. Address is 1 Oakhampton Boulevard in Toronto.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kavanaugh, can you provide us with a brief presentation on the merits of your application? We do have a number of area residents who would like to speak to this application. So let's hear what you have to say first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, committee members. So we have 3 variances that have been requested. I'll start with what I would say is the simplest one, that we are looking at a side yard setback requirement of 1.5 meters. We're requesting that be reduced to 1.06 on the east side of the building, which simply extends the existing building's length. As noted in the staff report, the intention of the side yard setbacks of 1.5 meters is to basically allow for access to rear yards for a number of reasons, maintenance and so on. With this particular residence, the west yard setback, will be maintained at 2.44 meters. So the intent of a side yard setback continues to be met The other point I would simply make is that that is just for the first story of the building or the addition. The second floor of the addition steps back another 1.6 meters roughly from the so for a combined setback of about 2.5 meters. So we believe we've met the intent of the requirement in that regard. There is a platform on the west side at the rear at the second story. We are asking that the requirement restricts that platform to about 40 square meters. We're asking for something larger at just over 9 square meters. The reason for, you can see that on the right-hand side there of that rear elevation, that platform or deck would include a privacy screen that we've shown between the neighbors and 200 GOLFDALE. The reason for the increase is because the owners, Patricia and Jeffrey Kavanaugh, have 8 children. So only the 4 meters size deck would be a little on the small side for them to be able to sit out and enjoy it. The third item, which seems to be, and I imagine is probably the reason for a number of people wanting to comment, has to do with the floor space index. The regulation in this neighborhood is 0.35. The house as it exists, which was built in 1938, is already at 0.37. And that's just the first floor and the second floor. And as we worked through this over a number of months last year with zoning, what we discovered was that when you go about setting established grade, which I understood had more to do with the height of the building, but established grade is as you know, is set at the front yard setback line and is the average grade. So if we could go back to the front elevation, please. It's the average between the two neighboring properties just beyond the property line. So as you can see with this house, as it has existed for 70, 80 years, the fall in grade from the left side to the right side results in an established grade that is closer to the basement floor, because the basement is only 7 feet, than to the main floor. The zoning then requires you to call the basement floor now the main floor. And if it's the main floor, it has to be included in floor space index. So the basement of this dwelling, which has this a laundry room, a furnace room, a recreation room, which is not included in any of the other neighbors in the neighborhood, has to be included just by a technicality in this calculation. So as the report states, that really, if it wasn't for the grade at the front, and in fact the zoning examiner said at one point, well, if you just lowered the basement a foot, you wouldn't have this problem. But that's not something the owners want to get themselves involved in. So again, I would point to the staff report that says the intent of regulating the floor space area is about making sure that both new and obviously additions are consistent in scale and massing with the neighborhood. And I think you can see both from the site plan and the elevations that even with the addition, that this house is no larger in terms of massing. It's really no deeper, it's no wider than any of the neighbors on the street. Okay. And it's purely the result of a technicality in calculation.
Can you summarize, please? Your time is up.
Yes, sorry. So those, we believe that each one of those is truly minor in nature, and that especially with the floor space index, it is purely a result of a technicality regarding the grade across the front of it.
Thank you so much. All right. So with that, committee members, do you have any questions of Mr. Kavanaugh? Yes. Go ahead, Member Manning.
I understood what you were talking about in terms of the FSI being basically a technical variance and variance number 3 being an existing condition, but can you explain variance number 2 a little bit more?
Variance number 2 being the platform on the second floor. So if we could call up just the second floor plan, there is a deck there that's bubbled. So the addition to the rear has a bedroom off of which there would be a small deck for the family to be able to enjoy some outdoor space, not specifically at grade. Again, a large family, again, from the site plan, they have a backyard that has a large number of trees at the rear of the backyard. They're just looking for an area that they could sit out quietly. And the 40, in terms of the 4 square meters, just basically restricted that deck to such a size that it would become kind of unusable for them to sit out there, say, around a table.
Member Manning, do you have any further questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? If not, let's move on to the first speaker listed. There's a Lucy Valley. Lucy Valley, are you there?
I am here.
Right, and if you can state your name and address for our records, please.
It's Lucy Valley, 186 Golfdale Road.
Okay, please share with us your thoughts on this application.
The only thing that I wasn't aware of was that I was told by the owner that the deck wasn't part of a variance, but I understand that it is.
Okay.
I'm asking the question for Mr. Kavanagh to Lawrence Kavanagh to answer.
Yes, okay. Is there, before he answers all of that, is there any other comments or concerns that you have?
Well, it would be nice if the city could put on the file somewhere that, you know, that the basement was included so that other people that want to build on this street or in this neighborhood don't see, you know, see this as, oh, well, this neighbor at 200 got 0.73. Why can't I ask for 0.75? And then the next neighbor 0.76 and so on and so forth. How do we, you know, how do we make sure that we are protected with the city, right? Like, I mean, is it just up to you four to decide? Or to protect us from future big monster projects?
There is an official plan for the City of Toronto, which we are guided by, and a specific planning act that we are guided by. We are appointed as city members to deliberate in a panel fashion. All of us come with varying experiences, and appointed by the Mayor of Toronto to help and assist in making these decisions, along with an entire professional team of urban planners and city staff, all with various specialties. So yes, we are a united team that makes the decision.
Okay, so what guarantee can we, us as a neighborhood, what guarantee do we have that if someone sees, oh, well, 200 Golfdale got 0.73, so I want 0.72 or maybe 0.74? It's up to you four to decide that every time.
Yeah, maybe I'll have the Deputy Secretary Treasurer interject.
Madam Chair, through you, each application considered by the panel is considered on its own merit and not necessarily anything based on past precedent in the neighborhood.
So this will not be a precedent for future people building in this neighborhood is what you're assuring me?
No, I'm not making any assurance at all. I'm just explaining that in terms of applications that come before the members, they look at each one individually, and what has happened before and approved before is not necessarily weighted equally for each one. Meaning that if they see something that perhaps shows up in a history file, they're not going to automatically say, this property, this application, this house deserves the same. Our panel members are not trained to perform their review in this manner.
Okay. Ms. Valley, do you have any other questions or considerations with respect to the variances that are listed here today? Because that is what we are asking folks that are on the line to speak to.
I don't.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions of Ms. Valley at this time? There being none, let's move on to Valerie Downey. Ms. Downey, are you there?
Madam Chair, I've been advised that Valerie Downey does not wish to speak at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's noted. And also, finally, we have a Jeff Kavanaugh. Mr. Jeff Kavanaugh.
Oh, hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm just the owner. I think Lawrence said everything that needed to be said from the proposal.
So you're noted. Okay, no problem. So, Mr. Kavanaugh, you've heard the concerns of Lucy Valley, the area resident who spoke. There were some specific questions that she had in the beginning. Do you want to address those questions?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not sure. They would. I can only assume that all the neighbors would have received notice with the platform. The variance number 2 is listed there. I'm not aware of I know that Jeff, the owner, had considerable discussions with his neighbors. I'm quite sure it probably came up. But I can't speak to that her point specifically. Whether it was noted, but it is clearly noted now that is a variance. And again, I was perfectly understand the concerns that Lucy and other neighbors that I know spoke with Jeff had about this 0.73 coverage or FSI, but we know it's an aberration. We ourselves actually talked to the committee about the notion of we did not want to set a precedent for this because clearly Jeff and Trish would not want a 0.75 house next door to themselves. So they were concerned about it. I was concerned about it. But we were assured by committee that each project was viewed on its merits. And that made us feel a whole lot better. And I think once we read the staff report, that was in support and we think quite explained the issues here very well, better than we could. We think that hopefully everyone's fears are allayed about this. And we hope the committee sees favorably towards approving these variances.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. And just to reiterate, we do not go by precedents here. Each application is done via its own merits and their very different circumstances. With that, committee members, do you have any questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I have a question from the applicant. How much is the floor space index of the existing building before addition?
Through you, Madam Chair, the existing is about 0.37.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, that being said, if there's nothing else or nothing further, this again is an application, 3 variances. There are 3 letters of support on file. The staff report of February 1st has 1 condition, and there seems to be urban forestry. If you would go ahead, committee members, and can I get a motion? Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having listened to the explanation by the agent and given the support from the planning staff, I feel that the application is an appropriate development for the property and meets the intents of the official plan. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application, subject to the condition that the side yard setback be developed in accordance with the site plan drawing attached to the planning staff report dated February the 1st, 2023, and subject to forestry condition.
Okay, thank you. Member Kidd with an motion to approve this application with those conditions that he stated. Can I have someone to second that motion? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? The motion carries. Mr. Kavanagh, your application has been approved subject to those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Okay. Just a couple more applications to go. Committee members, let's turn our heads to item number 30, which is 14 RISA Boulevard. This is an application for a second and third story addition and a side yard addition. There are 5 variances that are noted. No transportation services concerns at this time. However, there are 10 letters of opposition, and there is urban forestry. We've got folks who wish to speak to this application. Can I bring on a Jim Syed, please? The agent Jim Syed.
Speaking. Yes, speaking. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, of course. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jim Sod. I'm a principal at Paradigm Architecture and Design, and I'll be speaking as authorized agent on behalf of the owner of 14 RISA Boulevard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sod. If you can provide a presentation within a 5-minute time frame, we've got a few folks to speak here, and
yes,
share with us what the merits are of your application.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. I understand that there are these letters of objection to this proposal from some of the neighbors, and before I begin, I'd like to apologize and clarify that these are likely instigated by the fact that the zoning notice that was pre-circulated unfortunately misstated that our proposal is for a third-story addition. I want to clarify that we are only proposing a second-story addition, and that it was just an unfortunate mistake that we did not catch this error prior to the circulation of the notice. It's largely a hangover from a previous notice at a previous hearing. So again, please note that a request for a variance for a third story does not appear on our current public hearing notice, contrary to having been requested on our previous notice pertaining to our hearing in June of last year. In fact, we requested a deferral at that time specifically to allow us to revise that original proposal in response to all the neighbors' primary concerns over a third story and building height of 10.5 meters. These same concerns were raised at the time in a staff report from community planning, which cited that the proposed number of stories and building height were contrary to the intent of the zoning bylaw and the official plan policies. On that basis, they had recommended refusal of, at that time, variances 1, 2, and 6, which I will remind committee pertained again only to the height and the number of stories. No comments whatsoever were made about the other variances requested, which is carried over to our current application related to building length, building depth, and the front yard setback. Can I please ask that the site plan be displayed at this point? You can see here from the shaded area that we're merely proposing to fill in a corner of the current bungalow and extrude up an additional story, one additional story. So we are in no way proposing to worsen any of the legal non-conforming conditions that the current dwelling exhibits as they relate to the existing building depth, the existing building length, and the existing front yard setback. So let's turn our attention to the other 2 variances that were the main points of contention. We have, in response, entirely eliminated an occupiable third floor plate from within the proposed dwelling and reduced the overall roof height by 0.5 meter down to a height of 9.97 meters in conformance with the more recent citywide bylaw calculations, which is far more aligned to the scale of the other houses on the street and within the neighborhood. Although the immediate 2-story neighboring dwellings on either side of this property do not have roofs that are quite 10 meters high, they are two nearby houses just a few doors down, numbers 6 and 8 RISA Boulevard specifically, that definitely have comparable roof heights approximating 10 meters. There are several more examples of two-story buildings with larger roofs that are approximately 10 meters high on the two streets that RISA Avenue abuts on either end, Times Road and Loxley Avenue. These include numbers 202, 209, 212, and 213 Times Road, and 208, 210, 211, 212, 214, 221, and 223 Loxley Avenue. In our opinion, the variances requested are all minor in nature and pass the 3 remaining tests. We no longer see any more opinions to refuse the application from community planning. And our hope is that the committee appreciates that we have taken steps necessary to address the concerns of the neighbors and community planning in no longer proposing a 3rd story and by reducing the building height to better fit in with the surrounding context of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions of the applicant here today? And just before you do that, I wanted to share that there is a mistake that was recorded for, you know, the application, the notice. It is not for a 3rd story addition. It is 2nd story, and staff here has said that they will correct that. So go ahead, Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I just want to get clarification if I understand the application properly. So we have 5 variants in front of us. The variance number 1, 2, 3, existing situation, and variance number 4 and 5, both are one based on new bylaw, one old bylaw. We're dealing with the height. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. Thank you, Ms. Archerodi.
Okay. Any other questions before we move forward? Okay, there's a couple of, yes, Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just concerned about variance number 4. They're asking for a proposed height of 9.97, where 7.2 is permitted. That seems like a lot. That seems like an extra story. So I just perhaps you can explain that to me.
Sure, Mr. Kidd. My only response to that is that honestly, I don't know why the permitted height is set at 7.2 meters. In several neighborhoods, it is set around the 10-meter mark, and even higher in other neighborhoods close by in North York. The 7.2 seems shockingly low, although the number of residences that I have cited, if you take a Google Street View walk around RISA Boulevard and go down Loxley and Times on either end, I hardly believe that every single one of those homes, it may be the case, but I mean, I've cited about a dozen homes or more there, and I find it hard to believe that in every case they have all asked for that same variance that we're asking for. They are all in and around the 10-meter mark. It appears to be, after you take into account a very large, or a larger, I should say, roof structure than some of the existing homes on RISA and those other streets, that they start to appear to look like 2.5-story homes. But I can assure you that the owner's intent is by no means to create a 3-story home. He has resigned that roof area to remain as attic and mechanical space, and you'll see from the floor plans that there are no stairs that lead up to such a level that may have originally been shown in the original proposal back in June. He only wishes, and that was also the reason for reducing the height of the roof by the extra 0.5 meter, to also more closely tie in and match with the other homes in the neighborhood that mimic this height.
Yes, thank you. I noticed when I drove around the neighborhood, I noticed those houses that you mentioned, the 2-story houses that are probably closer to 10 meters in height. One of the main differences between them and the house you're proposing is the dormers that you've designed. I think on all sides of the roof, that make it at least present from the street as a 3-story building. rather than a two-story. What was that? Why do you feel it was necessary to put those dormers in?
I have to be honest, I'm not the actual designer. I am representing the owner as his architect. However, the designer was guided by a certain style of home that pleased the owner, and they followed on that basis, that look. They were literally intended just to make it look more like a European style home, villa, if you will. But we don't find that it's terribly a huge departure from the context of the other homes on the street. Some of the other homes, I should say. There is a nice mixture of homes on that on RISA Boulevard and on the flanking streets that we feel we are tying into.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Member Kidd. Any other questions before we move it on to the neighbors? That was a very good question, Member Kidd. I was thinking the same thing. Any others? If not, let's move on to the next speaker. And we've got a Grace Bianco. Grace Bianco, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hello?
If you could state your name and address.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Yes.
Can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Yes, my name is Grace Bianco. I live at 12 RISA Boulevard.
Thank you.
I too...
Go ahead.
Yes, I too am very concerned about the variance requested. There's still major variances. The height is proposed is a difference of two. You know how high it is. It's 38%, 38.5% increase in the height, and also there's the variance number 5. It's like 27.5% increase in the building height.
Okay.
And compared to the original application, there are no significant adjustments made. The variance was only reduced in the height by 0.57 meters, 22 inches. And now they're saying that there's no third story. Meanwhile, there's windows there, and there's a height there, and that's unbelievable. We cannot ascertain the true intentions of the applicant, but what we can see from the proposed major height variance requested and the windows located at the third story is that the proposed number of stories in this application is really 3. Just like in the previous application, there's not any major changes made to decrease the height. Allowing for this massive dwelling will decrease the amount of grass area required to properly absorb the water from the downpipes, the sump pump water, and the melting snow, which will eventually end up draining into the adjacent properties. As of March 2021, the applicant has redirected the pipe draining the sump pump water from front of the house towards my house. I'm very concerned about the area because the grass area next to my sidewalk between our properties is always wet, and I can hear the water gushing out from the pump. Recently, a mini concrete basketball court was also added to the applicant's backyard, further reducing the grass area. Allowing for the proposed building height length will block the sunlight from my garden, kitchen, and veranda. It will negatively impact the enjoyment of my property. Our block is known for our many spacious green backyards and trees. Allowing these major variances will allow future owners, developers to do the same with even greater variances, as you see, eventually destroying these beautiful backyards and reducing them to mostly bricks and cement. The maximum required provisions are established to ensure a consistent pattern of development. within a surrounding neighborhood. Major variances to the maximum height, length, and stories will cause haphazard development, which will negatively impact the adjoining properties and neighborhood. Our RISA Boulevard is considered a street characterized by 1 to 2 story dwellings. And in the municipal code, the portion of a building is situated between the top of any floor and the top of the floor next above, or that is situated between the top of the floor and the ceiling above the floor. There is no floor above it. The portion of a building is a floor, no matter what they're saying. The variance is there. There's windows there. The height is there. I respectfully ask that the members of the Committee of Adjustment to reject this application, as it does not meet the general intent and purpose of the official plan and city zoning bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bianco. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, if not, let's move on to the next speaker. It's either a Dominic Costa or a Kathy Costa.
26 Lockheed Boulevard.
Okay, Mr. Costa, you'll be speaking today?
Yeah, I'll be speaking. One question I have.
Yes.
Did the planning staff make the report this time, like last time?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
The planning staff made the report this time. Because last time they made the report advising you to decline. Because the height, the character of the street, the three-story. This time, there is no change. If you analyze the two plans, the plans he presented last time, this time, they're exactly the same. Why would you have a window on the act? Last time he was honest, they called three-story. This time, the intent is not there. I think I can't believe it. Last time he did the right thing. He was asking for the variance from a 2 to 3 story. This time he eliminated that. But
so
the plans did
what you're saying, I just want to clarify here. What you're saying is that the last plans that were presented under the pretext of a 3-story. Now it's coming back, still showing the same thing, but he's saying it is a 2-story and is making it appear to be a 2-story is what you're saying. Do you have any other concerns around the variances that are here today?
Well, the height's the major one, even variance number 1, 4, and 5. I have an objection about these variances.
Okay.
And the rest, the one who spoke before me said everything. I don't have nothing to say. The intent, I don't think we have, this application was presented with the right intent. Because eliminating the 3-story just for what? When the plans did not change.
Okay.
Thank you.
You share similar concerns as the previous speaker. All right. Thank you
yes.
for that.
Yeah.
Mr. Costa, I'll ask members now, do you have any questions of Mr. Costa at this time? Okay. If not, then let's move on to the final speaker before we get back the agent out here to respond. Mr. James Allen, are you there?
Mr. Allen, you've been unmuted.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes. Please state your name and address for our records.
It's James Allen at 221 Loxley, speaking on behalf of Rosa Voltaggio in the household and Mary Voltaggio in the same household.
Yes.
And for myself.
So it's saying that you're living at 14. Are you the owner of this application?
No, I don't know why it says I live at 14. I live at 221 Loxley.
Okay, 221 Loxley. Thank you. All right, and please share with us your concerns with this application.
Our backyards. My concerns are the same as the neighbors, also that this is excessive, and the committee member that also believes it's excessive. I don't believe that these proposals are much outside of the ones that were produced before. I'm also suspicious of a third story, as the plans indicate, and I'm also just, I mean, no, I'm no architect. I don't understand these plans as well as I should. But going from the existing plan that I'm looking at right now and the plan that's been demonstrated earlier, it shows the existence of a covered porch at the back when there's an addition that I believe it could be a bathroom. That's not in the drawing. And then the existence of the basketball court that Grace mentioned isn't in the drawing. Both of those structures are pretty big. I don't know, the basketball court has high fences around it, lighting standards in it that are twice as high as fences. I know that they're not as part of the discussion as insofar as this variance, but I'm just saying that those are pretty large omissions from the existing survey as it's presented, and so far as what we're speaking about right now. In regards to my property, it's got this our shed and the neighbor's shed and other things in surrounding properties seem to be clearly marked, but things that exist on the property that's even asking for these variances don't accurately depict what's on the property right now. I was just curious if someone from the city could speak to whether or not this is about a plan that's the plan that's coming, or if these drawings should include the existence or the exact current state of the property right now.
Okay, I think we'll just stick to questions related to the variances as of right now. And anything that you have with respect to the city, you can reach out to them at a later date. But right now, let's stick to the actual application. So I've heard that you echo the same concerns as the other members. Is there anything further you have to add before I ask the committee if they have any questions of you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you so much. Committee members, any questions of this speaker? Okay, there being none, let's bring back on the agent, Mr. Saad. You've heard quite a bit of concerns, and there's a bit of unbelievability in terms of what this application is or isn't, and for the second time around. Just before you respond to them, can I ask you the question, is there a habitable space that exists behind those dormers?
And yes, Madam Chair, I want to point out that no, there is not. Okay, let me put it another way. If you were to somehow access that space, the amount of space with adequate headroom to actually circulate would be reduced to like something like an 8x8 square room, okay, if that at all. And so dropping the half a meter that we did pretty much ruined or kiboshed, let's say, any opportunity of having a third level, and it was intended to be such. That's why it was done. Now that we're in alignment with so many of the other homes around the neighborhood at the same height, I'm concerned that we've been dealt quite an unfair hand with the notice that went out stating that it was still a 3-story application. Everyone has that seed planted in their minds, and the proof in that is that the letter, the boilerplate letter that was circulated and signed by the neighbors all state that they also have an issue with variance number 1, which is the length. And I don't think anyone's actually reading what that actually says, or interpreting, I should say, what it actually says. And that is that we're not extending this house out any further than the existing house is right now. That just leads me to believe that there's further assumptions being made about this is definitely going to be a 3-story house, and no attention being made or given to the fact that measures have been made to revise the proposal. There is no stair that leads up to a 3rd story anymore, and the roof has been dropped to such a point that you really can't inhabit that 3rd story as in any such way. It's also being built out of roof trusses, which also prohibit the use of that space as a habitable space. It is strictly now just all attic. And then with relation to the height, I'm hearing, well, there's a whole slew of other complaints not related to these variances. Something about the loss of natural light to the immediate neighbor, soft landscaping that has not been, applied to as part of this proposal. I don't know if the owner intends on keeping that basketball court in the back, but it's neither here nor there. I would ask that committee just focus on these variances and the fact that community planning seems to be completely appeased at this point, satisfied that we have an application that is far more minor in nature.
Okay, and is there anything else that you would like to address by the comments made by the neighbors? I know you've encompassed most of it, but I just want to give you an opportunity to address anything further that you consider that they may have said that you need to comment on.
Well, I think there's some communication that needs to happen between the owner and the neighbors to help resolve those issues. The owner does not want to come across as somebody who's forcing a proposal down anyone's throat by any means. He was under the impression, as was I, that he was taking some necessary steps to actually address their concerns from the last time we were at committee by reducing the height, by eliminating any prospect of a third story. So, it's our hope that they see it that way, although I think, once you're tainted with a notice that says that it's an application for a third story, again, you tend to disregard any of the other measures that have been taken to not go forward with an application that has 3 stories or appears to be 3 stories.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Saad today? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wonder if, in light of that, I agree with you that this is maybe there is a problem with this application, and perhaps that problem could be solved if you had a chance to go out and explain the situation more fully to the neighbors. Would you do you think a deferral might be in order here or not?
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Kidd. Ordinarily, I would agree with you 100%, but I do know that the owner has made attempts previously to speak with the neighbors and has only met with sort of the same kind of friction that it continues during this hearing. So I'm afraid that I wouldn't recommend it because I don't think that anything will change between now and the next and a deferred hearing, to be quite frank.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Modified the application. Do you, by any chance, remember how much was the height of the building that you proposed in the previous COA application?
Yes, Ms. Attarodi. I actually happen to have the previous zoning notice in front of me. The first variance listed at that time, variance number 1, was that the proposed height was 10.54 meters. And we are now proposing 9.97 meters. So that was one of the changes made. The other one was variance number 2 on that notice, which stated that the permitted maximum number of stories is 2 and that the proposed was 3. We've obviously eliminated that variance entirely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, members? Okay. So I think, let's take this, and I know this is some time to consider. So please take your time and deliberate, and I'll be here when you're ready for a motion. Yes, Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of forestry. Listening to the applicant's justifications and arguments that these variances are minor, I have been convinced, especially considering that variances 1 through 3 are the result of existing conditions, and also hearing the arguments about the attic space not much of it being usable due to the reduction in height and there being no stairs up to the attic.
Thank you.
No other conditions.
Do we have any forestry anticipation?
We were just told by staff that actually no forestry exists, and it was my mistake. I made a mistake on that. Sorry about that. So if we can just make, are you okay with removing the forestry condition, Member Manning?
I am, thank you.
All right, so then can I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded
I'll second it.
Yeah, by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved with the condition, with no conditions. And that's the motion. Okay, Mr. Saad, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, item number 31, which is 353 Brooke Avenue. We've got two speakers here. 353 Brooke Avenue is a proposal for a children's daycare home with 2 parking spots at the front driveway. There's 5 variances that are noted. There is urban forestry on this one, asking for denial of variances 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm just looking at staff to make sure, because there had been some mix-ups with urban forestry in this round. And there is 1 letter of concern. All right, with that, let's bring out Mr. Russell Fleischer. Mr. Fleischer, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Russell Fleischer, and my address is 67 Lesmore Road in Toronto.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Fleischer, if you can provide a brief presentation on this application. We do have someone to speak to it, and we'd like to hear the merits of your application.
Absolutely. The intention of the application is to convert an existing dwelling unit to a day nursery. All the renovations will be done internally, so it's an existing house in an existing neighborhood. The intention is the house to remain exactly as it is, and obviously just do an interior renovation to accommodate a day nursery. In conjunction with the day nursery, there's a requirement for parking, and that's why there's a parking variance. There's also a variance in terms of the front yard and the width of the paving. If you can stick to that drawing, that's a good one. In terms of transportation services, they have no objections to the parking variances and the driveway variances. The variances created by the driveway are existing conditions, so the intention is not to do any changes around the front, just to provide that surface parking in that area. That leaves the last variance, which is the variance in the amount of landscaped area in the rear lot. Because of the change in use in terms of a day nursery, there's not requirements, but the intention is to do an interlocking area for kids to play with little motorbikes and little sort of toys and ride around those areas. We're going to use a permeable paving in those areas. The balance of the area that also calls for a harder surface, and that's why the large reduction will be that sort of rubber membrane that kids can play and fall on it. In terms of day nurseries and outside areas, sod and those type of softer sort of areas don't really last. So the intention is to upgrade it to rubberized areas and permeable interlocking type pavers. There are forestry concerns. The intention is we have to go through a site plan approval. We'll be working with forestry to maintain as many of the trees as possible. I think due to the process that we'll be going through with forestry, we can deal with those issues related to tree preservation. As I said, I don't think there's an issue in the front yard. There's not an issue in the rear southwest tree location. So it's just a discussion on the one tree and how we deal with that one tree. So in keeping with the streetscape, there are no real changes that really affect the front yard in anything like that in terms of what exists for today and what's proposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Committee members, do you have any questions of the applicant? Yes, Member Manning first.
What percentage will be the permeable pavers?
Just, I don't have an exact number, but just looking at it, will probably be about 40% of the backyard. And this, we still got to go through the whole process of finalizing that design, but it's just an outline of what we're proposing at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a planning staff report here that recommends the application be deferred until the applicant submits an application for site plan approval. And if not deferred, then the application should be refused on the basis that it's premature. Can you comment on that?
We did come before committee in November, and that was a comment that was in November. So we did defer it in November until now. We have met with the planning. We've had a pre-consultation meeting, which means we have to submit for, and one of the requirements was to submit for site plan approval in terms of dealing with the lot, which we intend to go through that entire process. But unless we have sort of committee of adjustment approval on the parking, we're not sure what we're doing in terms of going through a site plan approval at this stage. So I think that was more of, a discussion that we had last November where we did defer it until now that we've had a pre-consultation meeting. We've got a site plan checklist, et cetera. So hopefully that answers your question, Mr. Kidd.
Madam Chair, through you, I think that's an older staff report.
Okay.
Right. Is there an updated staff report that addresses this concern?
No, that was just the previous one. There's no updated staff report.
Okay. Member Manning, go ahead.
I'm looking at a staff report from February 9th of this year. Oh, sorry, that's forestry, not planning.
Yeah.
That's forestry. We're dealing with the forestry stuff.
Yes, forestry has detailed a report, and I understand that they're wanting to work with forestry on that, so it will still be subject to forestry if there is an approval. But if there's no other questions, how about we move on to hearing from the other speaker on file? Okay, so let's move on then to Rabbi Menachem Gansberg. I'm hoping I said that correct. Rabbi Menachem Gansberg, are you there?
Just as you could say it. Very good.
Okay, great. What's your, if you could actually just for the record state your name and address so that we have that on file.
Sure. It's Rabbi Menachem Gansberg, 157 Falkirk Street, Toronto, Ontario, M5M4K4.
Okay, and Rabbi Gansberg, can you share with us your thoughts on this application?
I'm just the owner, and the architect who just spoke on my behalf did a great job.
Okay, you were listed as another area resident, so my mistake, but we needed a presentation anyway, so thank you for that. So then let's turn it back in, unless there's any questions to the owner that members would like to ask. If not, we'll turn it back to the owner, and I'll ask, members if there's anything that you would like to ask further before we move into committee for deliberation. All right. If not, just note that this is 5 variances. There is urban forestry noted, which they said that they will work towards. There was one letter of concern that's noted on file, but nothing else that's noted for your consideration. Can I get a motion on this application, please?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Through you, if there is still a concern about the site plan issue, can I confirm if the applicant spoke to the city planner about this
Okay. Mr.
before the members make their motion?
Yeah, Mr. Fleischer, that's a question from the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, if you've spoken with city planning about this.
We have been in contact with city planning over the last couple of months. As I said, the issue was reliant on site plan approval and the conditions of site plan approval and what the site plan approval issues and checklist would be about. So they haven't objected to any of this. It's just dealing with going through the actual process of a site plan approval. The original application was to deal with the vehicular parking in the front, and transportation has no objections to that. So it's just a process we have to go through in order to finalize site plan approval and obviously get building permits in order to construct or do the interior renovation of the proposed day nursery.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, through you again, I believe the applicant is aware that should this be approved and through the site plan approval process, additional variances are discovered, you will have to return to the Committee of Adjustment?
Yes, we understand that. We believe all the Committee of Adjustments are related to the exterior and not the interior, but we understand that if there's anything further that comes up, we may have to come to committee, but intention is to build within the existing built form and not deal with any further variance.
Okay, thank you. I just want to perhaps give that as a measure of
Yeah,
comfort to the members before they make their motion, that they are aware that should anything come up during the site plan review process, they will have to come back to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Okay, we hope that provides some further clarification while you're deliberating. And with that piece of information, can I get a motion, please? Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I would like to put forward a motion to defer the application so that the applicant have enough time to just contact city staff and then work on the site plan approval before coming back to the Committee of Adjustment again.
Madam Chair, through you, they've confirmed they spoke to planning. There is no requirement on record for them to come back to have the site plan done first. They have already spoken to planning.
I understand, but Ms.
I withdraw my motion. Thank you very much.
I'm clarifying the process. She can continue, but I'm clarifying this. I'm afraid the motion was made premature, not knowing that they have already talked to planning. She can continue with her motion.
Okay, I'm going to, because I want to follow due process and due diligence, you've made a motion, Member Attarodi. You have a choice now to withdraw that motion or continue with it. And I want to provide that clarity.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair, I appreciate the explanation again. And I was looking at this deferral from the staff in November 24th. So therefore I withdraw my motion.
Okay, thank you. Since that motion has been withdrawn, can I get a new motion from the panel? Not a new motion, a motion. You could choose whatever motion you'd like to make. Okay. Okay, members, I'm going to, as we're deliberating, I want to have an open forum here. If in case we want to talk it out, other panel members do talk this out before they come up with a motion. So perhaps maybe if there's any concerns that you have, let's talk about it with each other right now. Go ahead, Member Manning. Member Manning, you're muted again. Go ahead.
My concern is with the landscaping, that there's just way less landscaping than is required. I was contemplating whether making a condition, like making the permeable pavers a condition, would make that okay for me.
Right. Okay. And Member Kidd, if you want to weigh in, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I was going to support the original motion for deferral, and it goes back to my concern about the site plan application. I'm just looking at the email that we got that contained the staff report, and in it it's from Linda McCarthy. I'm not sure how Linda is involved in this. I assume she's from planning. And part of the email says, why are you going ahead with this committee of adjustment application at this hearing? From the hearing, from where it was deferred, it was recommended refusal if he didn't present the site plan. And then down below in response to that, it says, no, a site plan control application was not submitted yet. And the community planning is still working with the applicant. A site plan control application will come forward in the near future as required by Toronto Building. I don't understand why they've come back to committee without making the site plan application, when that was the whole point of deferring it the last time. That was the reason I was going to support the Nazila's motion.
Now, the motion for a deferral is not off the table. We can bring that back, and basically, even if it comes back, that it tells the applicant that there is more work to be done to make this clear for committee members to feel whole, complete, and sincere in their decisions that they're going to be making, that it's the correct decision. If we're feeling that we're at an impasse here, you do still have that as an option, and it will be up to the applicant to do the due diligence to make sure that it is clear for the committee. Yes, Member Manning, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, those were my initial thoughts, but then hearing that the site plan isn't a requirement to move forward, I think it would be unfair to the applicants to make that a requirement unless there's some concern that this needs to be tied to the site plan.
Anyone else to weigh in on that? Yes, Member Attarodi.
Yes, so my other concern is as Mrs. Manning mentioned, regarding the front yard landscaping and the rear yard landscaping, especially the rear yard, which is 11.2% versus 50%. I understand that they're just planning to have this school or nursery and they need some play area. And on the plan, they presented it's set interlock, but it will be helpful if we could just, for example, have a site plan to tie it so that we make sure that there are permeable paver front and back. So maybe that might answer my concerns for the variance 1 and 2. And then also we have the transportation and forestry condition. So those will take care of the rest.
So we've got similar feelings. Member Manning, you wanted to add to Member Attarodi's comments?
Transportation didn't have an objection. There were no conditions.
No, I said we got a report from them. I didn't say.
Okay.
Okay, good. Member Kidd, how are you feeling with what Member Attarodi has said?
I think just because the previous application was refused on the basis that they hadn't prepared a site plan application. That's happened last time, and they've come back without a site plan application. I don't know why we're not deferring it again. I guess that's my feeling, but whatever.
It's still an option, and it means that there has to be work to be done, you know, regardless. So I'm not part of the decision making here, so I as chair, and I've done a hands-off role. It will be up to you. What do you need to be closer to a decision here? I see your hand up, Member Manning. Go ahead.
I'm reluctant to support a deferral on this application, given that a site plan is not a requirement, but given our concerns regarding the permeable pavers, and the fact that if there was a site plan, we could tie it, that showed permeable pavers, we could tie an approval to that site plan, I will support a motion for deferral.
Member
Or I can make a new.
Member Atherody, Member Kidd, any other final thoughts before I'll ask for another consideration for a motion? Okay, there being none, and if you're feeling that this discussion has led to some more clarity in your decision, then I'll welcome a motion. No matter what it is, you will not be stopped. We'll move through with yay or nay on this. Go ahead, Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, a motion to defer this application to give the applicant an opportunity to provide a site plan. And I would request that that includes details about the permeable pavers, sine die.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to defer this application sine die to work with whomever, whichever teams are necessary to bring clarity in this application with more details to make the members feel comfortable in making a sound decision. Can I get a seconder on that? Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Unanimously approved. This application has been deferred. I think you've heard the deliberation and what's necessary from committee members. There's some work to be done in order to come back to committee members with whatever is needed for a decision. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you.
Okay. So that takes it on. We're moving on to the last item of the day. Thank you, members, for that. It's quite a dynamic day we're having today. Item number 32 is 248 to 250 Bridgeland Avenue. This is an application to construct a front canopy and new facades to the existing building. There's one variance noted, and we've got one member, just the agent, no one else to speak to this. There's a Carlo Pierozzi. Mr. Pierozzi, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes. If you could state your name and address for the records, please. We're hearing some feedback. I hope you're just using one device so that members can hear you clearly. If there's anything else being used, please shut it off and do not speak on a speakerphone function on your cell phone. Please continue. Name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Carlo Pierozzi.
Okay.
467 Spears Road in Oakville.
Okay, thank you. So I note, members, that there's just one variance noted, no other, staff reports or any other concerns. Do you require a presentation on this matter? If none required, then let me just turn it back to Mr. Pierozzi. Do you have anything that you'd like to share with the members before they, before they go into decision making?
I mean, it's relatively straightforward. After a long day, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I uploaded an elevation from the architect. It's you know, they renovated the place completely. It's a benefit to the area. It's minor. So I'm asking you to kindly approve our request.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, if you have no more questions, can I get a motion on this application? Okay, Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I feel it's this requested variance is minor in nature, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application without condition.
Okay, so motion from Member Kidd to accept this application, no condition. Can I have someone to second that motion, please? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Your application has been approved, Mr. Perazzi. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Okay, have a good night, too. Members, that brings us to the end of our hearing. Thank you for the good work you did and the collaborative work in terms of discussing. Sometimes that's needed, and when it's needed, we can bring that forward as a team. And so thank you very much, and thank you to city staff as well for always being on the spot and asked to be put in these positions with us. Can I get a motion to terminate this hearing today? Motion by Member Manning, and I second that. Have a good night, members. Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.